Chapter 213. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. The people of the House of Chivalry had only managed to shoot a few arrows down the mountain. They could not even hit the feet of the Longdan army camp mercenaries before they fell to the ground powerlessly. However, this kind of provocation came again and again, as if they were very tired. At dusk, there was a sudden commotion on the mountain. The mountain gate opened wide, and about 100 or so rangers roared as they charged down the mountain on their warhorses. "Release the arrows." Under Luo Yu's order, the Longdan army camp and Tianchong army that were lying in ambush in the forest all fired their arrows. In an instant, the 100 or so people who came down from the mountain screamed and fell to the ground. Only a few managed to escape. Wei Chou led a horse over and pointed at the wooden bucket on the horses but, saying, "As Milord expected, the water on the mountain has already dried up. This group of people wants to kill their way out and snatch the water." Lin Muyu nodded. "Yes, keep the archers on guard and dig a trap behind the first line of defense. Wait for their next wave of attack." Qi Ying was stunned. "General, how can you be so sure that they will come down the mountain a second time to snatch the water?" Lin Muyu smiled confidently. "It's very simple. These 100 or so people are just to test how many people we have surrounding the Fire Axe Mountain. In the next wave of attack, they will use at least 2,000 people. Therefore, our first line of archers will not be able to defend at all. They will dig a trap to ensure that our losses are minimized." "So that's how it is?" Qi Ying raised her eyebrows and smiled. "General is really meticulous." At this time, a white bird suddenly flew over their heads, the sound of its wings flapping faintly. Lin Muyu suddenly raised her head, her heart moved, and she said, "Wei Chou, shoot it down." Wei Chou raised his hand and knocked an arrow. With a "so" sound, the demon-devouring bow shot an arrow into the sky and killed the bird in the blink of an eye. A soldier of the Tianchong army picked up the bird's corpse and handed it over. "General." Lin Muyu took the bird corpse and looked at its feet. Sure enough, there was a small letter tube. She took out a piece of paper and saw a few simple words written on it. "Reinforcements will arrive in 2 days." Wei Chou frowned. "Sir, will the House of Chivalry send reinforcements? Could it be the people from their branch altar?" "I don't know." Lin Muyu felt a burst of anger and said, "Wei Chou, this messenger bird is coming from the direction of Five Valley City. Arrange for the sharpshooters in the camp to watch this direction day and night. Shoot down any messenger bird that flies by." Wei Chou smiled and nodded. "Understood." In the blink of an eye, it was night. The sky was filled with dark clouds and the moon and stars were dim. Even Qi Ying could feel the biting cold murderous intent. "This night will not be easy." Lin Muyu warmed himself by the bonfire and smiled. "Let everyone be more spirited." "Yes." In the early hours of the morning, a loud noise came from the mountain. The sound of horse hooves was loud. The House of Chivalry was attacking again. The moment the mountain gate opened, countless rangers with wooden shields and long swords rushed in. Their faces were full of anger as they shouted, "Kill! Kill these dogs of the Empire!" There were about 1,500 rangers on foot, and behind them were about 500 cavalrymen. It seemed like they wanted to use the wooden shields to wear down the arrows, and then the cavalrymen would charge. Lin Muyu stood under a towering tree, a thin layer of frost on his shoulders. He sneered. "In your dreams." Qi Ying mounted his horse and smiled. "General, it's our turn to charge now, right?" "Yes, we will fight when they break through the second blockade." "Yes." The torches on the Fire Axe Mountain were connected, and a large number of rangers charged out. Their battle cries shook the heavens, and their momentum was terrifying. "Fire!" Wei Chou shouted again. The longbow in his hand quickly shot out an arrow made of light. With a whoosh, it pierced through the bodies of 3 rangers. In the entire army, perhaps only Wei Chou had such arm strength and accuracy. Squeak, squeak. The bow in Lin Muyu's hand let out a cry of pain. Suddenly, an arrow was shot out. The arrowhead was imbued with pure Do Qi, and it directly pierced through a ranger's wooden shield. The explosive power of the arrow was shocking. "General is brave." The group of Tianchong soldiers were also very encouraged. Arrows rained down, and in the blink of an eye, the people from the House of Chivalry were killed. However, most of the arrows landed on the wooden shields and did not cause any damage. In the blink of an eye, the people from the House of Chivalry were within 20 meters of them. "Retreat!" Lin Muyu ordered. At the same time, she raised her hand and threw out 4 little magic sonar blades. They flew in 4 different directions and became invisible. After piercing through the bodies of several rangers, Lin Muyu slowly retracted her strength. Suddenly, the little magic sonar blades rotated rapidly in the air to form a magic sonar blade. With a schwa schwa sound, it killed another dozen people in the crowd before flying back. Under the light of the torches, a ranger surrounded by pure Zhenqi shouted, "Kill! Kill these dogs of the Empire!" The sound of hooves could be heard. The cavalry of the House of Chivalry had also arrived. They brandished their spears and charged forward. However, when they reached the second blockade, they successively charged into the trap. Screams of pain rang out as hundreds of people and horses fell into the trap that had been dug beforehand. The Tianchong soldiers and Longdan army camp soldiers naturally rushed forward and stabbed with their spears. Blood splattered everywhere. They had truly killed everyone. Swoosh! Lin Muyu took out the pear blossom spear from her Qianquan pouch. With a shake of the spear shaft, the spearhead instantly produced a pear blossom that was enshrouded in icy mist in the night sky. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, "Kill!" The sound of hooves could be heard. They had avoided the trap area. Under his leadership, more than 1,000 cavalrymen from Longdan army camp charged forward. Before they even got close, they had already launched a round of spear-piercing attacks. The destructive power of the spear was far greater than that of the arrows. The enemies were immediately scared out of their wits. When it came to close combat, the enemies were already scared out of their wits and became the targets of the cavalrymen. The air was filled with the thick smell of blood. This battle lasted for more than an hour before it ended. The final result was that the House of Chivalry had lost another game envoy. Only about 200 of the defeated soldiers managed to escape up the mountain. The mountain path was littered with corpses. It was a tragic sight. Wei Chao's face was filled with excitement. He smiled and said, "This time, we will teach these traitors a lesson." Qi Ying wiped the blood off her spear and said proudly, "I'm afraid they won't dare to go down the mountain to fetch water anymore." "How many men did we lose?" Lin Muyu asked as he rode past with his pear blossom spear in hand. Luo Yu cupped his fists and said, "The Longdan army camp lost close to 20 men, and the Tianchong army lost close to 100 men. It's all thanks to Sir's divine foresight. Otherwise, we would have lost even more men." "Got it?" Lin Muyu frowned. Actually, he had planned to have 0 casualties. Unfortunately, there were too many factors that could have led to the development of the situation. "All right, let's all rest. They won't make any moves tonight." "Yes, General." That night, Lin Muyu slept very soundly. Lying in the tent, Lin Muyu allowed the forging dragon bone remnants Do Qi to circulate around his body. His spirit pulse art also extended on its own, as if it had a spirit of its own, permeating into everything in the world. At this moment, heaven, earth, and man formed a kind of harmony, giving him a feeling of comfort throughout his entire body in his sleep. "Sir, bad news." Wei Chao's voice suddenly came from outside. Lin Muyu got up, grabbed his sword, and walked out of the tent. "What's wrong?" Wei Chao's expression was solemn as he said, "This morning, a group of Imperial troops from the Cloud Commandery appeared around the Fire Axe Mountain and surrounded us from the outside. I don't know why. Have you negotiated with them?" "Not yet." "Follow me." "Yes." Getting on his horse, he led a group of royal guards to the periphery. When Lin Muyu arrived, he could already see a group of people wearing imperial armor guarding the periphery, facing off against the Longdan army camp and Tianchong army inside. "What's going on?" Lin Muyu walked forward and raised his eyebrows. "Who is your person in charge?" The shield slowly moved away, and a man dressed in an official's attire rode out. He cupped his fists. "I am the governor of the Cloud Commandery, by Luo." Greetings, Madam Linmu. By Luo, why are you surrounding this place with the soldiers of the Cloud Commandery? Lin Muyu suppressed her anger and asked. Bai Luo smiled. Madam, this Fire Axe Mountain is originally under the jurisdiction of the Cloud Commandery. Today, a group of mercenaries from the Dragon Rocky Mountains suddenly appeared. As the local governor, I naturally have to bring my troops here to investigate. Lin Muyu took out the token. The token of the Zhen and General is here. Now that you have seen it, withdraw your troops. No, madam. What do you mean? Bai Luo's face was still full of smiles. He bowed and said, the Cloud Commandery is under the jurisdiction of the Five Valleys City. If there is a battle in my territory, I am afraid that the civilians will be implicated. So, before the troops from the Five Valleys City arrive, I must not withdraw my troops. Otherwise, if the governor blames me, I, a small governor of the Cloud Commandery, cannot bear the consequences. Lin Muyu was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Wei Chou said in a low voice, this old fox. Usually, when mercenaries fight to the death, he does not do anything. Now he dares to surround us. How dare he? Lin Muyu rode her horse forward slowly. Looking at Bai Luo's old face, she smiled. Governor, the way you surround us makes me suspect that you are in cahoots with the House of Chivalry. If that is the case, once I report this to His Majesty, I am afraid you will not be able to be the governor anymore. Bai Luo shuddered. Sir, I'm just following the rules. Please don't make things difficult for me. If it's really as you said, please take out the Imperial Emperor's edict. I won't dare to disobey and retreat immediately. Lin Muyu was stunned. She could not help but curse in her heart. This old fox must have known that the Imperial edict was in Du Hai's hands. That was why he was making things difficult for her. If you want to surround us, then surround us. Lin Muyu abruptly pulled out his long sword and swept it across the ground. His dou qi raged and dust flew into the air. Immediately, a deep pit appeared in front of him. He looked coldly at the group of Yunzhong Commandery soldiers in front of him and coldly ordered, anyone who dares to cross this line, kill them on the spot. Don't hold back. He looked deeply at Bai Luo and sneered. I know what you are thinking. Just you wait, I will let you get what you want. Bai Luo was stunned. Unease appeared on his face. Chapter 214. Milord, are we just going to let these soldiers from Cloud Middle Commandery surround us? Wei Chou followed Lin Muyu into the central tent, his face full of anger. We've surrounded Fire Axe Mountain without attacking, but now we've been surrounded as well. The food and water from Cathaya City can't be sent in at all, and we've fallen into a quagmire just like the House of Chivalry on Fire Axe Mountain. We must make a decision, milord. Lin Muyu abruptly turned around, her eyes full of killing intent. Wei Chou, think about it, why would Bai Lao and the others protect the House of Chivalry like this? This? Wei Chou was startled, then asked carefully, Milord, are you suspecting that Governor Hu Tianning of Tsangnan Province is in cahoots with the House of Chivalry? Not necessarily, but there's definitely a relationship of interest. Lin Muyu raised her head and sighed. If there wasn't a huge relationship of interest, Hu Tianning wouldn't need to mobilize such a large force, even at the expense of shedding all pretense of cordiality with the Imperial Army. This can only mean that he wants to protect Fire Axe Mountain, and that the House of Chivalry is hiding some secrets that he wants us to know. Wei Chou suddenly understood, Milord, if that's the case, then we must take action. Lin Muyu nodded, asking, how much rations do we have left? 2 days at most. We're running out of water. Dig a dozen wells here. We're low, and there are green mountains all around us except for Fire Axe Mountain. It won't be hard to dig out water. And what else, milord? Wei Chou turned to look at him. Find me a set of clothes for the House of Chivalry. I'm going to explore Fire Axe Mountain tonight and see what secrets this mountain is hiding that made Hu Tianning go to such lengths. Milord, you're risking your life alone, I'm afraid. No need to persuade me, I've made up my mind. Yes, milord. Late at night, the cold wind howled on Fire Axe Mountain. Rustle, rustle. With a series of rustling sounds, Gourd vines began to seep out from the rock stratum, and Lin Muyu grabbed onto a gourd vine tightly, using the characteristics of her martial spirit to climb up the northern cliff of the Fire Axe Mountain. This cliff was not just any ordinary steep cliff, it was a natural barrier that was completely vertical, so the Fire Axe Mountain's rangers would not necessarily guard this place. After all, normal people would not be able to climb up from here. The night was freezing. Lin Muyu's eyebrows were covered with frost, but his eyes were smiling. He was dressed like a rogue hero, and the badge he wore was also green. He was hanging a few hundred meters in the air, climbing up step by step with the help of the gourd vine. Fortunately, the gourd vine was born from his heart, and it was completely compatible with his body. Therefore, he did not have to worry about the thorns on the gourd vine hurting him. Even when Lin Muyu's palm grabbed the gourd vine, the surrounding thorns quickly dissipated into nothingness. It was a very mystical sight. Shwa! With a light leap, Lin Muyu landed on top of a fiery red rock. The dragon spirit sword was wrapped in black cloth and carried on his back. Lin Muyu was very familiar with the House of Chivalry, so he had nothing to fear. He strode over. Not far away, a dozen or so rangers were guarding the outer perimeter of North Mountain. "Who is it?" One of the rangers hurriedly raised his longbow. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised his hand and said with a smile, "Don't draw your bow, brother. I have a stomachache, but I'm too embarrassed to solve it up there. So I settled it at the edge of the cliff. We're family. Under the moonlight, the ranger saw his attire and couldn't help but laugh. "Damn, you scared me. Kid, you look unfamiliar. Are you new?" "Yes, I've been here for less than a month." "No wonder you look unfamiliar. Which team are you from?" This question made Lin Muyu stunned. Fortunately, he was more alert and said with a smile, "I was brought up the mountain by Lord Iron's Supreme Luoshan. Now I'm following him as his personal guard." There were at least 100 Iron's Supreme Luoshan on this mountain. Moreover, there were frequent changes in personnel. These rangers might not know each other, so this lie was very appropriate. "Oh, so you're the brother that Lord Iron Supreme brought up the mountain. Come, do you want to drink some wine to warm your body?" "Thank you, brothers, but I have to go back immediately. Lord Iron Supreme was injured when he went down the mountain to attack today. I have to take care of him." "Okay, brother, you've worked hard." After successfully passing through the mountain, Lin Muyu walked along the mountain forest. However, he saw that the rangers along the way were all listless like a withered eggplant. It seemed that the two big blows of the water supply and the failure of the attack had almost caused their morale to drop. It was a pity that Hu Tianning had made a new move. Otherwise, the Longdan army camp would definitely be able to conquer this Fire Axe Mountain within 3 days with minimal losses. At this moment, a group of wandering warriors holding torches suddenly appeared in front of them. They were escorting about 20 people who looked like peasants through the corridor and went straight to the other side of the cliff. One of them raised his whip and scolded in an arrogant manner, "Move faster, mother of Cur. If you miss today's work, I'll skin you alive." These civilian workers were all carrying shovels on their shoulders. They looked sallow and emaciated. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown. Without thinking too much, he quietly followed them and became one of the rangers. Together, they escorted the civilian workers. It was the middle of the night and they still had to continue working. There must be some kind of secret that they couldn't see. Sure enough, after circling around a small mountain peak, the area in front of them was brightly lit. About 100+ rogue warriors were standing guard in front of a cave, and this cave extended all the way into the depths of Fire Axe Mountain. Faint, ding-ding-dang-dang sounds could be heard coming from inside, and Lin Muyu immediately concluded that this was a gold mine. The Fire Axe Mountain was actually a huge gold mine. This was too sensational. "Go down." After pushing the civilian workers into the mine, Lin Muyu also followed a group of rangers down. The entire mine was filled with torches and rangers acting as guards. The entire Fire Axe Mountain seemed to have been emptied. The walls of the mine were densely packed with miners. They were using hammers, shovels, and other tools to strike the ores in the mountain. Under the light of the torches, some of the ores had a faint golden hue. Although it wasn't pure, It was definitely a gold mine. Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a deep breath. At this time, a bearded ranger looked at him and asked with a smile, "Little brother, you look unfamiliar. Are you new here?" "That's right. How should I address this big brother?" "Just call me Denyo." "Huh? Big brother Denyo, you're also in charge of guarding the mine today." "That's right." Denyo nodded. His eyes were filled with greed as he looked at the carts of gold and said, "If all of this gold is turned into Jinin coins, each of us can marry 7 or 8 wives." Lin Muyu's heart sank. She smiled and said, "Big brother Denyo, do you know that these gold mines are used to make coins?" "Of course." Denyo waved his arm and smiled. "Otherwise, why do you think that old fox Hu Tianning sent reinforcements to us when the Fire Axe Mountain was surrounded?" Lin Muyu was relieved and said, "I'm new here, so I don't really understand these rules. Could it be that Hu Tianning wants these gold mines to make coins for himself?" "That's right. What else do you think?" Denyo excitedly said, "Since ancient times, birds die for wealth and birds die for food. But as far as I know, there is a law in the empire that prohibits officials from making coins for themselves." Lin Muyu said hypocritically. Denyo rubbed his nose and said, "Do you think that old fox Hu Tianning is a vegetarian? This Fire Axe Mountain has been mined for almost a year. Just the amount of Jinin coins that have been made is more than 10 million. Hu Tianning is overflowing with wealth right now. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to buy maids, warhorses, and weapons in such a large amount. He even dares to buy warhorses and weapons?" Lin Muyu smiled in astonishment. "This Hu Tianning is really bold." Denyo smiled and said, "Of course. The armies in Songnan province add up to about 120,000 people. Among them, the most elite is the Flying Mount camp led by General Long Qianlin under Hu Tianning. It is said that the warhorses of this Flying Mount camp are all fine horses from the western regions. Their weapons are also made by famous craftsmen. All of them are made of black iron. Looking at the entire empire, which army can be mentioned in the same breath as them?" Lin Muyu secretly smiled. Perhaps even her Longdan army camp could contend against them? However, this Hu Tianning was indeed bold. He actually dared to collude with the House of Chivalry to mine gold on Fire Axe Mountain. How bold! Lin Muyu deeply sighed and said, "I wonder how many Jinin coins we can get. Nowadays, marrying a wife in the countryside costs a lot of money." Denyo smiled. "Don't worry. All right, what is your name?" "Linji." Denyo immediately patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and smiled. "Little brother Lin Ji, the great travel envoy has already promised us that after we finish mining the gold on Fire Axe Mountain, we will move to another nest. Each brother will receive at least 1,000 Jinin coins. Nowadays, the girls in the countryside are quite cheap. You can marry one for only 100 Jinin coins. You are so young and strong, marrying a wife from 5 households is not a problem, huh?" Lin Muyu smiled shyly. "Brother Denyo must be joking. I am still inexperienced, Denyo." At this time, an excited voice suddenly came from the depths of the mine. We found it. What did you find?" Lin Muyu was startled. The voice in the depths of the mine immediately responded with a loud laugh. "Sir Jin Zun, we have found a white diamond. Quickly go and tell the great travel envoy that we have finally found a white diamond." Lin Muyu was startled. He immediately went down the rope with a group of wandering warriors. With the help of the light, he saw a group of miners gathered there. At the bottom of the mine, after the hard rocks were cut open, long crystals that looked like ice crystals appeared in front of him. This was the legendary white diamond? What was the difference between a white diamond and a diamond? The people of this world did not worship diamonds, but they seemed to worship white diamonds. What was the use of these glowing white crystals? Chapter 215. What's the use of white diamonds? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Denyo squinted his eyes and said, "You don't know? White diamonds are very rare, but they're the favorite ornaments of noble ladies. It's said that these white diamonds can emit light, so many noble ladies like to use them to decorate their rooms. Usually, A lady with a white diamond is enough to make her best friend envious. Looking at the bundles of white diamonds in the rock stratum, Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. This was another huge fortune, but it seemed like it was not fated to be with her. It was about to become Hu Tianing's. Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu tried to touch these white diamonds with her spiritual sense, but she didn't expect that there was spiritual energy in the white diamonds that reflected her spiritual sense. Heavens, these white diamonds actually contained such rich spiritual energy. She carefully analyzed the structure of the white diamonds with her spiritual sense and found that although they were called diamonds, they were actually more like metals. However, they were a type of metal with unknown characteristics. At least, they weren't in the periodic table of elements. The crystal form of white diamonds was made up of tiny particles, and the structure of each particle was similar to the molecular structure of a diamond. One could imagine how hard it was. It's said that white diamonds have another use. At this time, another venerable who was about 60 years old said while stroking his beard, "Oh, use." Lin Muyu and Denyo asked together. The old venerable smiled and said, "I heard from our ancestors that this kind of white diamond is extremely sharp, and it has a natural ability to destroy battle chi. So, in ancient times, there were divine blacksmiths who used white diamonds to make weapons. These weapons can easily break through the defense of battle chi armor. In other words, a heavenly king's defense can't even withstand a single blow from a white diamond weapon." Denyo immediately raised his eyebrows and said, "Bullsh *T. There are many white diamonds in the empire now, but why isn't there a weapon made from white diamonds? Because there hasn't been a divine blacksmith of that level in the future." The venerable smiled disdainfully. "You kids won't understand even if I tell you how white diamonds can break battle armor." These words were like a bolt from the blue to Lin Muyu. How many powerful beings at the Heavenly King stage and above had relied on the toughness of their suits of battle armor to dominate an entire army? However, if he could really smelt the white diamond and use it as a weapon, that would be the bane of all Heavenly King stage powerhouses. Furthermore, Lin Muyu could already imagine that scene in her heart. With the white diamond as the arrowhead, wouldn't it be able to instantly kill any Heavenly King stage powerhouse? If that was really the case, perhaps Jin Yifan, Xianxia, and the others wouldn't be as scary as they had imagined. After all, not everyone could withstand the simultaneous release of 10,000 arrows. In an instant, Lin Muyu made up her mind. She couldn't leave any of these white diamonds to Hu Tianing. Otherwise, it would be a disaster. Ouch! He suddenly bent his body. Denyo hurriedly asked, "Little brother Lin Ji, what's wrong?" "I suddenly have a stomachache. I'll go up first." "Oh, okay, be careful." "Thank you, brother Denyo." This Denyo was very straightforward and honest. He was very likable. After flying out of the mine, Lin Muyu once again arrived at the North Mountain. Using the excuse of having a stomachache, she went down the mountain and headed straight for the main tent of the Longdan army camp. It was already past midnight. "Gather all the generals above the rank of Chili Arch," he said in a low voice. Wei Chou immediately cupped his fists. "Yes, sir." A few minutes later, more than 10 generals with sleepy eyes came to the main tent. All of their faces were full of surprise. "General, for you to summon us in the middle of the night, could it be that the troops from the Cloud Commandery are attacking?" "Not really." Lin Muyu shook her head. "Prepare to gather the troops. We will attack the mountain during the night. We must occupy the entire Fire Axe Mountain before dawn. The Tianchong army will be responsible for bringing up the rear. I will personally lead the Longdan army camp to attack the mountain. We will strive to take it down in one strike." "Yes, sir." Luo Yu and Fengxi cupped their fists together. "The Longdan army camp awaits your orders at any time." Torches were quickly raised, and every mercenary in the Longdan army camp had a few water bags hanging on their waists. It might not be easy to go down the mountain after going up the mountain. They had to make early preparations to avoid the same fate as the House of Chivalry on the Fire Axe Mountain. In the middle of the night, Lin Muyu led more than 1,000 heavy cavalry of the Longdan army camp to the mountain gate. From afar, Wei Chou killed the Silver Elder guarding the gate with a single arrow. "Be careful, the Empire's lackeys are attacking at night." A warning came from the stone fortress. There was no time to waste. Lin Muyu quickly activated his martial spirit. The golden gourd wrapped him and his warhorse within it. He charged towards the mountain gate and raised his right fist. The space seemed to distort because of it. He mustered all his strength and expended nearly 40% of his do qi to unleash a Four Luminaries Demon Cry. The Four Luminaries Demon Cry was an area of effect attack. The power of the demon god bombarded the gate like a cannonball. Instantly, the iron gate was torn into pieces. Even the entire stone city wall was turned into dust. The rangers on the city wall howled in pain. Looking at the countless soldiers of the Longdan army camp climbing up the mountain, none of them dared to resist. They were scared out of their wits and shouted, "Oh my God, are they still human? Sir, spare us, we are willing to join the Empire's army." They quickly broke through the mountain gate. Just as Lin Muyu had expected, there were more than 2,000 rangers on the mountain. However, at least half of them were supervising the work in the mines. Therefore, there were very few people that could be sent out to defend the mountain. The people from the House of Chivalry probably thought that Lin Muyu would not dare to attack the mountain with the arrival of the troops from Yunzhong Commandery. However, they were wrong. It was because the temptation of the White Diamond was too great for Lin Muyu to resist. The Longdan army camp swept through and quickly killed their way up the mountain. With just over 1,000 heavy cavalry, they were unimpeded. In fact, it was mainly due to the 60 royal guards at the front of the formation. The strength of the royal guards was known to the world. With these 60 powerhouses attacking the mountain, it was a miracle that the House of Chivalry could withstand them. "Be careful, their great Yuchess envoy is here." Xiahou Sang raised his spear and rushed over from afar. He laughed and said, "Leave this great Yuchess envoy to me." The great Yuchess envoy was already a white-haired old man. The result was beyond Xiahou Sang's expectations. With a sweep of his battle energy, Xiahou Sang and his horse were pushed back. He was not a match for the great Yuchess envoy at all. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. This great Yuchess envoy was wearing battle armor. He was a heavenly king powerhouse, but his aura might not be stronger than hers. More importantly, the great Yuchess envoy's weapon was only a spirit-grade long saber. "With me, Guan Longsheng, here, who dares to be presumptuous?" The great Yuchess envoy held his saber in front of him, his face full of arrogance. The group of rangers behind him were encouraged, and all of them had smiles on their faces. "Lord Great Yuchess envoy is indeed invincible. Brothers, we will definitely win." "Pa!" Lin Muyu suddenly leaped from her horse, her battle energy rising rapidly. Holding the dragon spirit sword with both hands, she quickly descended from the sky. The blade was surrounded by the two luminaries' demonic dance's Xian energy. She shouted, "I don't care if you are a great Yuchess envoy or not. Eat my sword." Lin Muyu. The great Yuchess envoy's eyes turned cold. He hurriedly raised his long saber to block Lin Muyu's mighty sword. Clang! Sparks flew, and a small piece of steel broke off from the handle of the long saber. It was obvious that the hardness of the saber was far inferior to the dragon spirit sword, but this great Yuchess man was not to be trifled with. The long saber suddenly slashed down. One! The golden wall of the gourd opened, and Lin Muyu forcefully blocked the opponent's saber. His blood energy was in turmoil. Damn, those who could step into the Heavenly King stage were not easy to deal with. They had to rely on their own strengths. Using the rebound force, he retreated, but his battle boots quickly stepped on the ground, and he launched another attack. This time, he focused the Xian energy of the three luminaries' calamity on the longsword, and activated the true dragon essence fire to surround the blade to increase its destructive power. Guan Longsheng hurriedly turned around and left, his long saber dragging along the ground, leaving a trail of sparks. Stalling? Lin Muyu was stunned. Was this Guan Longsheng the incarnation of Marshal Saint Guan? However, while he was in the air, he threw his long sword out without thinking. The stalling tactic was to pretend to retreat and let the opponent chase him, then turn around and kill him with a slash. However, this tactic was useless against the sword control technique. The dragon spirit sword cut through the air. flames surrounding the sword hilt all the way to Lin Muyu's palm. Guan Longsheng heard a sharp whistle behind him, and hurriedly turned around and raised his saber to block again. Clang. This time, the sound was even more crisp and the long saber was directly cut in half. Guan Longsheng was stunned, but his face was full of anger. He held the saber hilt in one hand and the broken saber head in the other, and rushed toward Lin Muyu. Before Lin Muyu could land on the ground, he swept his saber horizontally. The long saber slammed into the wall of the gourd, and she rolled away in a sorry state. Guan Longsheng didn't let her go, and he beat her up with both hands. Lin Muyu had never suffered like this before, and it was in front of so many mercenaries in the Longdan army camp. Her battle boots suddenly pierced into the ground, and after stabilizing her body, the dragon spirit sword appeared in her hand again, and she slashed out like lightning. Pang! The sword struck Guan Longsheng's shoulder like lightning, but he still had his battle armor on. He grabbed the blade of the dragon spirit sword, and his face was full of arrogance. He stabbed the long saber horizontally into Lin Muyu's chest. Lin Muyu's reaction was even faster. She turned around and used her battle armor to deflect the fatal strike. Her left hand quickly spun, and flames surged as she controlled the dragon spirit sword to spin rapidly. Guan Longsheng's sword hand was quickly crushed into pieces. Even a saber couldn't block the dragon spirit sword, let alone a body of flesh and blood. Lin Muyu was extremely fast. She directly grabbed the chainmail on Guan Longsheng's neck with one hand, and her right hand grabbed the hilt of the sword and pressed it against his chest. Poof! Fresh blood spurted out. Guan Longsheng, a master of his generation, a legendary figure of the Guild of Chivalry's headquarters in Sangnan Province, ended his tragic life just like that. Chapter 216. With Guan Longsheng's death, the few remaining golden venerables and silver venerables from the House of Chivalry lost their courage to continue fighting. One by one, they knelt on the ground and wailed, "The great wanderer, you died a terrible death. What are you crying for?" Xiahou Sang crawled up from the mud and said with his spear in hand, "Put down your weapons, and I will spare your lives. Otherwise, I will kill all of you." "We are willing to surrender." The group of people put down their weapons. It was good that there was no massacre. "My lord, what should we do now?" Qi Ying cupped his fists and said, "I feel that since Fire Axe Mountain has been conquered and these rangers are willing to surrender, our mission is complete. Why don't we go down the mountain immediately?" Lin Muyu nodded. "General Qi Ying will lead 5,000 heavy cavalry from the Tianchong army down the mountain to set up camp. Wait for me." Qi Ying mounted his horse and left. Wei Chou asked, "My lord, what else do we need to do?" "Bring the men and follow me." "Yes." In the Fire Axe Mountain mine, the clanking sounds were still lingering. When more than 1,000 Longdan army camp mercenaries appeared in the mine, the rangers did not have the courage to fight at all. They all put down their weapons and expressed their willingness to surrender. Most of these people only joined the House of Chivalry to seek a better future. Apart from some of them who had bad records, the rest could be incorporated into the Longdan army camp mercenaries. Lin Muyu was wearing the Holy Temple's battle robe. When she stepped into the mine with Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the other royal guards, Daniel recognized her from afar. His eyes widened. "Aren't you little brother Lin Ji?" Wei Chou said in a low voice, "Don't be rude. This is Lin Muyu from the Eagle's Nest camp of the royal guards. She is also the new general of the south." Daniel's face was filled with fear as he quickly knelt down and said, "This lowly one greets sir. This lowly one didn't know sir was." I know I was wrong, sir. Please don't kill me." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She went forward to hold Daniel's arms and said with a smile, "Brother Daniel, my real name is indeed Lin Ji. You don't have to be afraid. The Imperial Army isn't like the dogs of the Empire that you guys claim to be. Don't worry, if you're willing to surrender, then join us. If not, then take your Jin-in coins and go home. With me here, no one will dare to touch a single hair on your head." Daniel stood there in shock while Wei Chou snickered, "This big blockhead is really stupid." Xiahou Sang looked around and said, "Heavens, so there's a gold mine here. These damn rangers are secretly mining here instead of reporting to the Ministry of Works. Humans die in pursuit of wealth just as birds die in pursuit of food." "It's normal," Lin Muyu said. Luo Yu, on the other hand, was quite courageous. She squinted her eyes and said with a smile, "I'm afraid the truth is more than that. From Hu Tianing's behavior, this gold mine is most likely his. At least, he won't be able to clean up this mess no matter what." However, Lin Muyu suddenly turned around and said with a serious expression, "Listen up, all of you. This gold mine was mined by Guan Longsheng of the House of Chivalry in Songnan Province. It has nothing to do with Sir Hu Tianing of Five Valleys City. If anyone dares to slander Governor Hu Tianing, I, Lin Muyu, promise to cut off his head with my sword." Luo Yu, Wei Chou, and the others were shocked. "Sir, this," however, Feng Shi smiled and cupped his fists. "Sir is wise." At this time, everyone had already reached the bottom of the mine. However, in less than 2 hours, clusters of white diamond crystals had already appeared in their field of vision. "These are white diamonds?" Wei Chou, who was experienced and knowledgeable, asked. Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Luo Yu, Feng Shi, let our brothers in the Longdan army camp come down and quickly mine these white diamonds. Then, load them up and send them back to Dragon Rocky Mountain." Luo Yu smiled. "Sir." Lin Muyu walked forward and used the dragon spirit sword to dig with all her might. She found that there were actually only so many white diamonds in front of her. If she dug any further, there would be gold mines. Wei Chou saw through Lin Muyu's thoughts and said with a smile, "Sir, white diamonds only grow in rich spiritual energy layers, so there are only so many here. Moreover, it's already very fortunate that we can dig so many. The reserves of white diamonds here are equivalent to about half of the Empire's total reserves, right?" Lin Muyu nodded. "Yes, this is enough. Hurry up and mine." Xiahou Sang was puzzled. "Sir, then, what about the gold mines?" "Privately mining gold mines is a capital offense." Lin Muyu smiled at him and said, "Xiahou Sang, do you want to violate the Empire's laws?" "This." Xiahou Sang smiled. "Sir is too smart." Lin Muyu didn't go anywhere. She just sat in the mine and watched Luo Yu, Wei Chou, and the others mine the white diamonds. She put the white diamonds that were submitted into her Qinkuan bag one by one. However, the Qinkuan bag was quickly filled to the brim. There were at most 700 to 800 white diamonds. The remaining hundreds of white diamonds were given to the soldiers in the Longdan army camp to carry. At this moment, a tiger-level commander from the Longdan army camp dashed into the mine and cupped his fists. "Commander, a group of people who claim to be from the Flying Mount camp have arrived at the foot of the mountain. They said that if we don't go out, they will immediately attack the mountain. General Qi Ying of the Tianchong army camp seems to be unable to restrain his anger and wants to fight. Sir, quickly go and take a look." "Oh?" Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold. "Is Long Qianlin finally here?" Long Qianlin is known as the #1 general in the Songnan province. "We are outnumbered and can't fight him, sir," Luo Yu advised. "I know." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Don't stop mining here. The few of you follow me out." After exiting the mine, she mounted her horse and led the 3,000-plus cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp down the mountain. At this time, it was already daybreak. The first rays of the morning sun shone on the Fire Axe Mountain, reflecting a patch of red. However, the foot of the mountain also seemed to be covered in a patch of red. No, it should be called blood red. A battle had already broken out at the mountain gate. Corpses were lying there and blood had dyed the ground red. Qi Ying's armor was stained with blood. He held his spear and urged his horse forward in a somewhat sorry state. He said, "Sir, I fell into Long Qianlin's trap. I was forced to retreat by their spear formation on the mountainside. You." Lin Muyu suppressed her anger and calmly said, "Victory and defeat are common. Follow me to take a look." "Yes, sir." There were close to 500 corpses lying on the hillside. At least 400 of them belonged to the Tianchong army. The number of corpses from the Flying Mount camp was pitifully small. The fortress had just been repaired and both sides were in a standoff. Lin Muyu saw this and raised her eyebrows. She said, "Wei Chou, bring our master archers to the fortress. When the Flying Mount camp comes over later, aim at their eyes and necks and shoot." "Yes, sir, watch carefully." Lin Muyu continued. "Luo Yu, lead the stronger brothers from the Longdan army camp to the fortress and carry the rounder stones. If the Flying Mount camp attacks the mountain forcefully, throw these stones down." "Yes, sir." Fengxi, lead 200 men to dismount and form a shield formation to block their arrows. "Yes." After the assignment was completed, Lin Muyu carried the dragon spirit sword and ascended the small mountain gate. Looking from afar, the Fire Axe Mountain was really surrounded. There were at least 30,000 men and horses at the foot of the mountain, including the elite Flying Mount camp. Moreover, Long Qianlin, the #1 general of Cangnan province, was personally overseeing this conflict. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't look like they could win. Looking into the distance, Lin Muyu channeled her qi into her voice and said in a clear voice, "Sir Long Qianlin, I didn't expect that we would meet in this way after we parted at Wugu City." From the cavalry formation, a man dressed in black armor walked out with a spear in his hand and said with a smile, "Sir Lin Muyu, I, Long Qianlin, also didn't expect that we would meet like this. However, sir, you led your troops into the territory of Cangnan province without permission and ordered your subordinates to kill over 100 soldiers from Yunzhong commandery. Your actions are equivalent to treason, so I had no choice but to surround this Fire Axe Mountain." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, "General Long Qianlin didn't even frown when he lied. You really have the demeanor of a famous general. Why did I come up the mountain and why did you come here? Don't tell me that General Long Qianlin doesn't know?" Long Qianlin sneered, "Sir Lin Muyu, you are one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen appointed by His Majesty. Everyone knows that you are now the honorable general of the South. Everyone thinks that you will be a famous general in the future. I, Long Qianlin, have the honor to experience the abilities of a famous general like you today. Do you dare to fight?" Lin Muyu said lightly. Clang. Long Qianlin unsheathed his sword and shouted, "Attack the mountain!" The Flying Mount Battalion mobilized 1,000 men to attack the mountain. Their formation was neat and orderly. After entering the firing range, they immediately raised their shields to protect themselves and their companions. They moved forward as a whole without the slightest bit of disorder, as if they were an iron shield. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly exclaim in admiration. This Long Qianlin was indeed very capable. As a famous general in the era of cold weapons, everyone had their own skill. Long Qianlin's reputation was definitely earned through fighting and not through bragging. Release the arrows. Under Wei Chao's command, the stone fortress released tens of thousands of arrows in unison. Moreover, there was no lack of sharpshooters among the Imperial Guards and the Longdan army camp. While the arrows landed on the shields, there was no lack of arrows that hit the eyes and necks of the soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion. Immediately, blood-curdling screams rang out. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were shot and killed. The entire shield formation seemed to have been affected. Long Qianlin spurred his horse to the rear of the cavalry formation. He suddenly raised his long sword and shouted, "Throw the spear!" Clang, 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 one by one the shields fell. The next moment, the nearly 1,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion raised the spears on their horses and threw them. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. "Squat down!" Lin Muyu hurriedly shouted. Everyone on the fortress squatted down one after another. However, there were still people who couldn't dodge in time and were directly shot by the spears. In the blink of an eye, 7 or 8 people were killed and more than 10 people were injured. Chapter 217. Clang, clang. The opponent raised his shield again to protect his whole body. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes. Seeing that the opponent was already less than 10 meters away from her, she immediately raised her arm and shouted, "Hurl the stones!" Luo Yu led a group of strong men to hurl the stones. Instantly, the sky seemed to be covered by the stones. The moment the huge stones smashed the shields of the flying Mount Camp soldiers, they were badly mutilated. Not only that, Lin Muyu flew down the city wall. Not only that, Lin Muyu dashed down the city wall with the golden gourd walls protecting her body. Her long sword left her hand and circled around rapidly. Suddenly, a dragon flame's spiral pierced through the crowd of the flying Mount Battalion. The dragon spirit sword was so sharp that it pierced through the shields and armors, instantly drawing a stream of blood. Lin Muyu brandished her fists and sent 2 cavalrymen flying along with their shields with 2 punches. She then grabbed the dragon spirit sword that was spinning towards her and swept it horizontally, breaking an entire row of shields with a cracking sound. She even mercilessly chopped off the cavalrymen's arms. "Assassinate!" Long Qianlin shouted. One by one, the cavalrymen moved their shields away and pierced the walls of Lin Muyu's gourd with their spears. Instantly, the light was dense and ripples were formed. Each ripple meant that a portion of Lin Muyu's battle energy was consumed. "This won't do. We can't fight a protracted battle like this." Lin Muyu quickly retreated, and the gourd vines quickly wrapped around the stone wall. She quickly climbed up and shouted in a low voice, "Hurl the spears!" Hundreds of mercenaries from the Longdan army camp on the fortress also raised their spears and hurled them down. The stones had already disrupted the opponent's formation, and this round of throwing spears killed nearly 100 of them. In the blink of an eye, less than 700 of the 1,000 soldiers from the flying Mount Camp were left, and many of them were injured by the flying arrows. Long Qianlin was distressed. How could he continue fighting? He shouted in a low voice, "Everyone, come back. Prepare the fire oil trucks." Fire oil trucks? Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She sighed inwardly. This Long Qianlin was truly vicious. It was winter, and the vegetation had withered. If he used fire to attack, then wouldn't this fire axe mountain really turn into a volcano? No, I can't let the 10,000 soldiers of the Tianchong army and the Longdan army camp die with me. Pressing her hand on the ice-cold stone wall, Lin Muyu shouted from a distance, "Long Qianlin, I've received the imperial order to annihilate the chivalrous inn. Do you really want to exterminate us, the imperial army? A day ago I had already sent a letter to Lan Yen City to ask for help, and Commander Feng Jixing will soon lead 50,000 troops to reinforce. Do you want to be enemies with Feng Jixing or the Empire?" Long Qianlin's face was gloomy as he said, "Lin Muyu, it is a fact that you have killed the soldiers of Yunzhong Commandery. Just this point is enough to make you unable to be the general of the South. When General Feng Jixing arrives, this general will naturally explain the whole story to him." He still had some fear. After all, some things couldn't be said out loud. He also didn't want Lin Muyu and the others to divulge certain information. Lin Muyu was as clear as a blazing fire. She smiled and said, "General Long, when I went up the mountain, I discovered that the dog thief Guan Longxing was secretly mining the gold mine in the mountain. I've already killed him. I believe that Governor Hu Tianning of the Five Valleys City still doesn't know about this matter. I advise you to immediately withdraw your troops. In this case, I will give the credit of discovering this gold mine to Governor Hu Tianning. What do you think?" Long Qianlin was instantly stunned. What he feared the most was that Lin Muyu's conviction that Hu Tianning had colluded with the chivalrous into secretly mint coins would be exposed. However, Lin Muyu's words were completely exonerating Hu Tianning. What an extremely intelligent Lin Muyu! Long Qianlin secretly praised in his heart. He raised his head and asked, "Madam Lin Muyu, did you really not intentionally shoot the soldiers of Yunzhong Commandery? If this is really the case, then this battle was a misunderstanding." Lin Muyu spread out her hands and looked like an old friend reminiscing about the old days. She smiled and said, "General Long, do you still not trust me? I, Lin Muyu, am the Emperor's adopted son and the commander of the Imperial Guard's Eagle Guard. Moreover, this group of dog thieves from the chivalrous inn had secretly mined the gold mine. Many soldiers and I witnessed it with our own eyes. As long as I return to the imperial capital, this credit will definitely belong to Governor Hu Tianning. Consider it as me returning a favor to you and thanking you for not killing them." Long Qianlin nodded. "All right, I will go back and discuss this with the governor. Madam Lin Muyu, Please wait here for a moment. Alright. In the main tent of the Flying Mount camp, Hu Tianning was still enjoying a cup of fragrant tea. Suddenly, Long Qianlin opened the tent door and entered. He said, "Madam, I'm back." "Oh, it's Qianlin. What's the result?" Long Qianlin looked a little ashamed. He said, "Lin Muyu used his troops wisely. This general was unable to conquer Fire Axe Mountain in a short period of time. However, Lin Muyu said that he found out that Guan Longsheng had secretly mined the gold mine. From his words, he didn't seem to have the slightest suspicion that Madam was involved in this matter." Is that so?" Hu Tianning squinted his eyes and said, "This Lin Muyu is simply extremely intelligent. It is not a good thing to have such a person stay by His Majesty's side. Qianlin, what do you think we should do now?" Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said, "Darren, Lin Muyu said that he had already sent a letter to Lanyan City to ask for reinforcements. Feng Jixing will be leading 50,000 troops and will arrive in a few days. Even though I do not know if it is true or false, but Qianlin thinks that killing Lin Muyu on Fire Axe Mountain would remove a big worry in his heart, but at the same time offend Feng Jixing and the imperial capital. It is inevitable that the matter of the coinage will be leaked. In my opinion, it is better to let go of Lin Muyu this time. There will be plenty of opportunities to kill him. Qianlin guarantees to Darren that the next time, I will not let Lin Muyu have any hope of survival." Hu Tianning laughed heartily. Qianlin, are you appreciating Lin Muyu?" Long Qianlin was startled. "Darren, I did not. It doesn't matter. Let's go. Follow me to welcome the Emperor's godson down the mountain." "Yes." At the foot of Fire Axe Mountain, the flag was flying. Hu Tianning was escorted by a group of Flying Mount camp soldiers to the foot of the mountain. The corpses that were left behind from the previous battle had all been removed, as if this conflict had never happened. Creak. The wooden door that had just been built opened. Lin Muyu brought Wei Chou, Luo Yu, Qi Ying and the rest down the mountain. Lin Muyu was still all right as she had a smile on her face, but the three generals behind her had a vigilant look on their faces. Their right hands were placed on the hilt of their swords at their waist, as if they were ready to fight at any time. The fortress behind them was densely packed with soldiers from the Longdan army camp who were ready to fight at any time. "Darren, we will stop here." Long Qianlin reached out to restrain Hu Tianning's warhorse, indicating that he should not go any further. If he went any further, he would enter the shooting range of the Longdan army camp's archers. Long Qianlin had personally experienced the accuracy and arm strength of the dozens of godly archers in the Longdan army camp. Hu Tianning was also afraid of death. He nodded with a smile, turned over and dismounted to wait. Lin Muyu and the others sped up their pace and came very close. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled. "It's been a long time, Governor. We meet again after we parted ways in Five Valley City." Hu Tianning cupped his hands and smiled. "Yes, but I did not expect that there would be some small misunderstanding between us. The information we received before was not true. Please do not be angry, General Lin. I, Hu Tianning, did not act appropriately in this matter. It was our Tsangnan province that neglected General." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, "What are you talking about? I should thank you for personally leading tens of thousands of troops from Five Valley City to the foot of Fire Axe Mountain to protect our army." The muscles on Hu Tianning's face twitched. He seemed to hear the sarcasm in Lin Muyu's words, but he did not show any strange expression. He just smiled and said, "General, the House of Chivalry of Fire Axe Mountain is treacherous. Each and every one of them should be executed immediately. I wonder how the general will deal with those prisoners of war?" Lin Muyu said, "I will escort them back to Lanyan City to await punishment. They will most likely be executed, so there is no need for you to worry. This is what I should do." Lin Muyu walked forward and lowered her voice. "Governor, this Fire Axe Mountain is actually a gold mine. The bastards of the House of Chivalry have already mined a lot of it. It is really hateful. I only received orders to destroy the House of Chivalry, but I did not receive any orders regarding the gold mine. So I have already sent a letter back to Lanyan City to let the Ministry of Works send people over to mine coins. Before that, this Fire Axe Mountain will be handed over to the governor to send people to guard. Hu Tianning nodded. Yes, I understand. Please rest assured, General. Well, then let the Flying Mount Battalion disperse. Let my people go down the mountain. Long Qianlin waved his flag. Immediately, the Flying Mount Battalion and the garrison troops of Five Valleys City dispersed, creating a path for Lin Muyu's troops to escape. Galloping on their horses, more than 9,000 cavalrymen quickly withdrew from the Fire Axe Mountain, followed by nearly 2,000 surrendered soldiers from the House of Chivalry. At the same time, they also took away more than 1,400 precious white diamonds. Of course, Hu Tianning would not be aware of the existence of these white diamonds for the time being. After getting out of the encirclement, Lin Muyu finally heaved a sigh of relief. It was not easy to bring these 10,000 people out alive. Perhaps only he knew how dangerous it was. Wei Qiu's face was full of doubt and said, "We once again left the Fire Axe Mountain's gold mine to Hu Tianning. From what I see, this guy will definitely continue to mine coins. Don't tell me, we don't know anything." Otherwise? Lin Muyu asked and smiled. It's not easy to come out alive. Don't provoke Hu Tianning anymore. Wei Qiu, you know the feudal lords of the empire better than I do. Are all the governors of the provinces like Hu Tianning? Wei Qiu was stunned and said, at least more than half. The governors of the provinces have a certain amount of power to recruit soldiers, so the governors of the major provinces will basically gather troops for themselves. This is also a major reason why the imperial power of the emperor has been weakened. Moreover, regarding the matter of exterminating the House of Chivalry, after the imperial edict was issued, all the provinces agreed on the surface but disobeyed in secret. This is all expected. I see. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and her mood became solemn. This Qin Empire seemed to be a centralized imperial system, but in fact, it was almost a situation where warlords were divided. Living in such a chaotic world, she really did not know whether it was a blessing or a curse. Holding the dragon spirit sword, Lin Muyu lowered her eyes and looked at the ground that was constantly retreating under the hooves of the horses. For a moment, her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Chapter 218. After leaving Fire Axe Mountain, they continued to station their troops outside Silver Fir City. This time, however, Lin Muyu ordered Fengxi to lead 500 mercenaries from the Longdan army camp into Silver Fir City. They would be able to coordinate with those outside the city at any time, and with their backs to Silver Fir City, they could enter the city at any time. Although Silver Fir City's walls weren't particularly thick, they at least had enough food and water. At dusk, the afterglow of the setting sun shone upon the camp. The Spirit Medicine Division was already cooking meat soup and frying the army flatbread a little so that the soldiers could enjoy it more. Inside the central tent, Luo Yu, Qi Ying, Wei Qiu and the others were standing around a sand table. Although this sand table made of silt was simple and crude, it at least had a rough representation of the entire Cangnan province. Wei Qiu was a meticulous man. He inserted a small blue flag into the sand table and said, "Within the Cangnan province, the main altar of the House of Chivalry had more than 5,000 soldiers. We've already eliminated them, but there are still a total of 47 branches left. Going by the distance, the branch in Cloud Province is the closest with around 550 people. The second is the branch on the east of Silver Fir City with around 400 people. There's nothing to fear." Xiahou Sang said, "Milord, if we were to eliminate them one by one, it would take too much time. This general suggests that we split our forces. We'll split into 10 groups of 1,000 men and eliminate them together. What does Milord think?" Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Then let's pick 10 capable Kiliarchs to lead the troops. Remember, we'll try to get them to surrender first. If they don't succeed, then we'll attack. Try to minimize our losses from the House of Gallantry." "Yes, this general understands." Lin Muyu then looked at Wei Qiu and said, "How is the establishment of the Divine Bao Battalion going?" Wei Qiu smiled slightly. Reporting to Master, this general has already selected 100 mercenaries with extraordinary archery skills from the Brave Dragon camp. In the future, these people will be able to train in the consummate skill of shooting a poplar from 100 steps away. Then that's good. Lin Muyu let out a sigh of relief and said, "All right, everyone is tired after a busy day. Let's go back and rest early. We'll set out to eliminate the bandits tomorrow morning. In addition, place our scouts further away and pay close attention to the movements of the 5 Valley Cities troops." After everyone dispersed, Lin Muyu sat on the edge of the bed and circulated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll to recover her Do Qi and physical strength. Soon after, she got off the bed and took out a crystal from her cosmos bag. It was really a white diamond. This crystal pillar was about 1 meter long and 10 centimeters thick. It was exquisitely carved and sparkled under the light. Glancing at the door, he ordered, "No one can come in without my permission." "Yes, my lord," the guard replied solemnly. Lin Muyu raised her hand and summoned her cauldron. It was time to verify whether the legend was true or not. Was it true that a weapon forged from white diamond could break through battle armor? If it was true, then this trip to Fire Axe Mountain was a huge profit. If it wasn't, then it would only be an empty joy. Swoosh, swoosh. Strands of heavenly fire lingered around the crystal and began to refine this hard iron stone. Her spiritual sense slowly seeped into the crystal and dissected the spirit stone layer. Immediately, the fire drilled into the spirit stone layer and quickly melted the iron. Not long after, small white diamond particles like the tip of a needle floated in the molten iron. These were real white diamonds. Lin Muyu frowned and continued to use the heavenly fire to refine the crystal. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't melt these particles. These particles were abnormally hard and solidified. The only thing Lin Muyu could do was to reshape the solidified form of these particles. Suddenly, her heart sank. Perhaps these particles could be reshaped and condensed on the blade. In that case, the sharpness of the blade would be greatly enhanced. Immediately, she took out the dragon spirit sword and placed it into the cauldron. Immediately, the dragon serpent sword spirit let out a series of roars. Lin Muyu spread her fingers and controlled the white diamonds to attach to the sword, quickly turning it into a sharp edge. This way, the sharpness of the dragon spirit sword would not be affected, but it would also greatly increase the strength of the sword. Only a fist-sized white diamond had been extracted from the entire white diamond crystal pillar. Half of it had been smelted into the blade of the dragon spirit sword. The remaining half could be used in other areas. Buzz. Lin Muyu held the dragon spirit sword in his hand again. The blade seemed to be plated with a layer of silver light and was glowing brightly. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. He could feel the joy of the sword's soul in his palm. The dragon spirit sword had been strengthened after the blade was reforged. He slowly returned the dragon spirit sword to its sheath. He looked around with a satisfied expression and picked up a bunch of arrows from the side. The arrowheads of these arrows were made of hard steel and were very sharp. But no matter how sharp they were, they couldn't pierce through the defenses of heavy shields and armors. Therefore, these arrows could only cause fatal damage to some light armored troops. Once they encountered heavy cavalry like the Flying Mount Battalion, they would probably be useless. But this situation was going to change today. Swoosh! She tossed the first arrow into the cauldron, and the wooden branch that was the arrow was immediately burned to ashes. The steel arrowhead also quickly turned red. Before the arrowhead could melt, Lin Muyu immediately activated his battle chi and controlled a small amount of white diamond particles to attach to the arrowhead. His spiritual perception seeped into the arrowhead and quickly sharpened the blade. Not long after that, a silver-plated arrowhead appeared in front of him. Can this thing really pierce through battle armor? Lin Muyu held the scorching arrowhead with a doubtful look on his face. With that in mind, he didn't think too much about it. He suddenly crossed his left arm in front of his chest and quickly condensed his battle chi armor. He then stabbed the arrowhead down with all his might. A sharp pain immediately came from his left arm. Sure enough, the white diamond arrowhead broke through the defense of his battle armor and left a wound on his arm. Heavens! Lin Muyu was completely shocked. After stepping into the second heavenly layer, she thought that ordinary weapons could no longer harm her. Now that she thought about it, this thought was laughably childish. Everything in the world had a natural counter to each other, and this white diamond was like the nemesis of battle armor. It was like fire was afraid of water. After being hit by the white diamond arrowhead, it automatically dissipated. She used her battle chi to stop the bleeding and put the arrowhead aside. Then, she pulled out all the arrowheads from the cluster of arrows and smelted them into white diamonds one by one. However, there were nearly 100 arrows in this cluster, and half of the crystal pillar was only enough to smelt 50 arrows. She had no choice but to smelt the second white diamond crystal. As a result, after tempering all 100 arrows into white diamond arrowheads, she also tempered the pear blossom spear and demonic noise saber with white diamonds. This also meant that if she encountered a powerhouse above the second heavenly layer, the weapons tempered with white diamonds would achieve a miraculous effect. In fact, there was only one reason why Lin Muyu was so eager to smelt so many white diamond arrowheads, and that was to deal with a sanctuary powerhouse. After Xing Yifeng killed Rong Hanyuan in Zhe Tian Palace, who wouldn't be afraid of the power of the sanctuary? Even Qin Lei, Feng Jixing, and the others couldn't fight back against Xing Yifeng, let alone other people. Moreover, no one knew how many powerhouses were hiding on this continent. Xing Yifeng, Chu Chu, and Lei Hong weren't the only ones in the sanctuary. This was already an indisputable fact. The main reason why Lin Muyu ordered Wei Chou to build a godly archer battalion for the Longdan army camp was to use this army to deal with the sanctuary. That's right, under the explosive shooting of a group of godly archers' white diamond arrowheads, any sanctuary powerhouse would probably fall into a desperate situation, right? After placing this bundle of white diamond arrowheads beside the bed, Lin Muyu finally calmed down and fell into a deep sleep. She hadn't had a good sleep for many days. Now that she was in the center of an army of 10,000, there was no need to talk about her safety, so she could have a good sleep. The night passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was already early morning. The sound of horse hooves outside woke Lin Muyu up. After she got up and washed up, Wei Chou had already come over with the demon-devouring bow. He smiled and said, "Milord, did you sleep well?" "Very well." Lin Muyu smiled slightly and said, "Wei Chou, carry the bundle of arrowheads in my room, we'll go to the shooting range now and try it out." Wei Chou didn't question much and went in to carry the arrows out. Looking at the luster of the arrows, his heart sank and he said, "Milord, these arrows have an inexplicable feeling of sharpness. Let's go." When they arrived at the shooting range, they saw a group of soldiers from the Divine Archer unit practicing mounted archery. The target was covered with arrows, and the hooves of horses galloped back and forth. However, there were a few Tianchong army heavy cavalry chatting and laughing to the side. Among them, Qi Ying raised her spear and said with a smile, "No matter how good one's archery is, it is impossible to pierce through the armor of heavy cavalry. It's all in vain." Wei Chou was somewhat displeased. "That may not be true. As long as it is accurate, it is possible to kill with one arrow." Qi Ying laughed heartily. "It's just that not every archer can train their archery to Milord Wei Chou's level. General Lin, don't you think so?" "That may not be true." Lin Muyu smiled mysteriously and said, "Qi Ying, place your Tianchong army's shield under the target. Wei Chou, shoot an arrow and see if it can pierce through the shield." But Qi Ying spurred her horse forward, unconvinced. She placed a black heavy shield under the target and said with a smile, "The Tianchong army's black stone shield weighs at least 100 pounds and is 3 centimeters thick. Let's see how you can pierce through it." Wei Chou did not say anything. He raised his hand and grabbed a white diamond arrow, knocked it on the demon-devouring bow, and slowly pulled it back. With a whoosh, the arrow left the bowstring. In the next moment, with a clang, it completely pierced through the shield. Qi Ying's mouth was wide open in shock. How is this possible?" It must be because of Milord Wei Chou's arm strength that you can do this. If it was someone else, it may not be the same." Wei Chou knew the secret behind this and smiled slightly. "Then let's change to someone else. Sun Hu, you shoot an arrow." As he spoke, he handed over a white diamond arrow. The mercenary from the Longdan army camp raised his hand and shot an arrow. Just like before, the arrow pierced through the heavy shield with a clang. Qi Ying was completely dumbfounded. There must be something fishy going on. The shields of our Tianchong army are not shoddily made low-quality equipment. How is this possible? Wei Chou patted his shoulder and smiled. All right, let's get ready for the morning's mission. Chapter 219. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Batches of soldiers from the Tianchong army and Longdan army camp returned with good news. The 47 branches of the House of Chivalry in Songnan province had all been destroyed. More than half of them had surrendered. Longdan army camp had been able to pick out nearly 3,000 men of good character and strength to join the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu's task in these 10 days was very simple. She continued to refine the white diamond crystals and forged 20,000 white diamond arrows for the Longdan army camp. This should be enough for a while. Moreover, Luo Yu was a good general. Every time she shot out a white diamond arrow, she would retrieve it. Even if the arrow was broken, she would pull out the arrowhead and install a new arrow. At noon, Wei Chou returned with a batch of captives and supplies from the House of Chivalry. His face was beaming with joy as he went straight to the main tent. "Milord, we have seized nearly 50,000 Jinying coins. These people in the House of Chivalry's branches are really rich." Lin Muyu was installing arrowheads on arrows. She twisted them and smiled. The House of Chivalry is like the wandering mercenaries. They make a living by robbing the people. Naturally, they are very rich. Wei Chou cupped his fists and smiled, saying, "Sir, from now on, the House of Chivalry's military forces in the Songnan province have been almost completely wiped out by us. There will no longer be anyone oppressing the people and causing the fires of war here." "Do you think that will be the case?" Lin Muyu smiled, stood up and said, "The House of Chivalry is admittedly very strong, but the 9 cities of Songnan province each have a military force of no less than 2,000 people. The local government should be responsible for eliminating the bandits, but we have to do it. Even if we leave, new bandits will breed here, so it's completely useless." Then isn't it meaningless for us to eliminate the bandits this time?" "Not necessarily." Lin Muyu did not continue and said, "In the afternoon, Zhang Wei will be leading the 3,000 Imperial Guards. They will be here to supervise and protect the Fire Axe Mountains gold mining. Send someone to ensure the safety of the Imperial Guards before we leave." Wei Chou saluted and suddenly smiled. "I heard that, Princess, she has come to Kathaya City with Lord Zhang Wei." "Oh? Sir, aren't you going to welcome them?" Then let's go." Lin Muyu's heart warmed. It seemed that she hadn't seen Tang Xiaoxi for a long time. It was afternoon, and the sun was shining brightly. The sound of hooves could be heard from the distant road as the 3,000-strong Imperial Guards led by Zhang Wei arrived at Silver Fir City. At the very front of the formation was Tang Xiaoxi. She was dressed in a fiery red robe, and her cloak was embroidered with gold. It was a beautiful sight to behold. When she saw Lin Muyu and the others from afar, she immediately spurred her horse forward. Whoosh! Tang Xiaoxi suddenly leapt from her warhorse, the firefox on her shoulder chirping loudly. Beneath her feet was a firefox seal shrouded in fighting aura. Like a beautiful fairy from the heavens, she leapt into Lin Muyu's arms in an instant. Lin Muyu laughed heartily as he subconsciously opened his arms and pulled Tang Xiaoxi into his embrace. He probably didn't even know how much he had missed this gentle and mischievous princess in the past half a month. In the end, the impact of Tang Xiaoxi's embrace was too great, and he tumbled off his warhorse with Lin Muyu. Wrapped in a white cloak, Lin Muyu slid down the grass for nearly 10 meters before coming to a stop. "Xiao Shi, you've stepped into the heavenly realm?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile as he held her in his arms. Tang Xiaoxi was as beautiful as a peach blossom, and she nodded with a flushed face. "With Chu and Grand Deacon Lei Hong's help, I've already mastered the Firefox seal, and my cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds." "That's great." Lin Muyu spun around and deftly stood up with the beautiful princess in his arms. He gently let go of Tang Xiaoxi's slender waist and said in a tone that was both sentimental and polite, "Why did you come to Cathaya City with Lord Zhang Wei?" "Because I missed you." Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue, not bothering to hide her longing for Lin Muyu at all. At the side, Wei Chou hugged his sword and smiled. "Commander, when are you going to marry Princess Shi?" Zhang Wei also smiled and cupped his fists. "Congratulations, Lord Lin Muyu. You're about to become the son-in-law of Seven Seas Province." Lin Muyu blushed and her heart thumped loudly. She tried her best to calm herself down and said with a smile, "You guys, don't hit me when I'm down, all right? Xiao Shi is still young." "Still young?" Zhang Wei grinned. "My mother gave birth to me when she was 16, and Princess Shi is almost 20 now. Is she still young?" He tilted his head and looked at the peaks beneath Tang Xiaoxi's chest. The girl's figure was unusually tall and straight, and that pair of shameful and proud breasts bulged out of the front of the princess's robe. Zhang Wei hurriedly wiped away his saliva and said, "You're not young either." Tang Xiaoxi's face turned even redder. Suddenly, she opened her right hand and a flame mark rose slowly. It was the Tianchong seal, the fourth heaven of the firefox seal. She smiled with a murderous aura. "Zhang Wei, do you want to die?" Zhang Wei's cultivation advanced slowly and he had yet to step into the heaven realm. How could he be a match for Tang Xiaoxi? He couldn't help but tremble and said, "Princess Shi, please spare my life. I didn't mean any disrespect when I spoke nonsense just now." Lin Muyu took the opportunity to hold Tang Xiaoxi's palm and dissolved the power of the firefox seal. She smiled. "Xiao Shi, don't stoop to his level. Let's go back to the camp with me. We'll break camp and return to Lanyan City in 1 or 2 days." "But," she smiled sweetly. Zhang Wei cupped his fists. "But I'll bring my men to take over the Fire Axe Mountains gold mine. Lady Lin Muyu, I'll leave Princess Shi's safety in your hands. Don't neglect her when I, old Zhang, send the beauty over." Lin Muyu grinned. "I'll hand you over to the military law office if you speak nonsense again." Old Zhang will take his leave. "Goodbye, everyone." Zhang Wei tugged on the reins and led the Imperial Army cavalry away. Behind them were a group of miners and commoners pushing the carriages. It was no wonder that they took 10 days to arrive. It must have been hard on Tang Xiaoxi. She had to follow this group of uncouth men for 10 days. Holding Tang Xiaoxi's hand as they returned to the Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu asked with a smile, "How strange. Xiao Shi, how could you have been patient enough to follow Zhang Wei's group for 10 days? Given your personality, you should have reached Cathaya City in 3 days." Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said pitifully, "You're still asking? Originally, Chu and Xiao Yin didn't allow me to come. It was only after much begging that they allowed me to follow Zhang Wei's 3,000 cavalry. I didn't eat or sleep well along the way. Now that we've finally arrived, and this is your territory, Mu, you have to treat me well." Of course. Lin Muyu beckoned for Luo Yu to come over and took out a bag of Jinin coins. Smiling, she said, "Luo Yu, send someone into the city and buy some good wine and food. I want to treat Princess Shi well tonight." "Yes, my lord." Luo Yu took the money pouch and raised his head to look at Tang Xiaoxi. Instantly, a trace of confusion flashed past his eyes. He was just a fellow with a knight-errant background and had never seen such a beautiful woman before. Moreover, he had never seen such a noble young miss like Tang Xiaoxi. Instantly, he was in a trance. Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. "Luo Yu, what are you looking at? Who would look at the commander like that?" Her pretty little face blushed again. For a moment, she didn't know how to describe herself to Lin Muyu and just stood there awkwardly. She wanted to put on the airs of a princess, but she was so embarrassed that she didn't know where to start. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh at her beauty. "Luo Yu, hurry up and go. If you want to look, come back later. Xiao Shi is coming back to Lanyan City with us." Luo Yu calmed himself down and cupped his fists. "Yes, my lord. But don't worry, my lord, I won't look at my lord's woman again. Luo Yu is a reasonable person." Lin Muyu went forward and patted his shoulder. He was indeed a reasonable person. "Good brother." After sending Luo Yu away, they returned to the main tent. There was only Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu left in the tent. The two of them sat opposite each other and felt a little awkward. They didn't know what to say. Finally, Lin Muyu broke the awkward silence and said, "Xiaoxi, how's the process of cultivating the firefox seal?" Tang Xiaoxi blinked her big eyes and said, "Grandpa started teaching me the firefox seal when I wasn't even 6 years old. It's just that I couldn't cultivate it due to my physique. Now that I've opened the hidden latch, the firefox seal naturally came to fruition. On the same day, I cultivated the third heaven of the firefox seal. In another 5 days, I cultivated the fourth heaven of the firefox seal. Grandpa Chu Chu said that with my perception, I might be able to cultivate the seventh heaven of the firefox seal in less than 2 months. He said that my talent far exceeds Brother Tang Bin's." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu was also secretly delighted. "That's great. Xiaoxi has grown into a strong practitioner who possesses the firefox seal. This is a great thing for us. Oh right, how's Xiao Yin's cultivation?" "It's all right. Xiao Yin's cultivation has always been fast. In the past 6 months, she has advanced by leaps and bounds. She originally planned to come with me to Cangnan province, but unfortunately, Her Majesty didn't allow it. She had no choice but to continue cultivating in Zetian Palace." "Huh, is that so?" Lin Muyu unwittingly smiled and said, "I haven't seen you and Xiao Yin for many days. I really miss you guys." Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said with a look of disbelief, "You're now a general who commands thousands of troops. I thought you were already immersed in military affairs and didn't have time to miss us." "How could that be?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "I'm immersed in military affairs only because the Empire needs me. Oh right, we'll break camp and return to Lanyan City tomorrow. Eat more tonight and sleep early." At night, Luo Yu and a few mercenaries from the Longdan army camp brought food and wine from Cathaya City along with a few cooks. Only Princess She could receive such treatment. They made a table full of food and wine and placed it in the tent. However, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi definitely couldn't finish it, so they invited Luo Yu, Wei Chou, Qi Ying, and the other generals to eat together. This caused Qi Ying, Wei Chou, and the others to almost cry. They had fought in the army for almost half their lives, but they had never eaten with someone as noble as a princess. So when their tears fell into the soup, they seemed to enjoy the meal even more. Lin Muyu secretly cursed these guys for being useless as she picked food for Tang Xiaoxi, making Tang Xiaoxi so happy that she was bursting with joy. They had just finished eating when a soldier reported that Xin Yang had finally arrived at Cathaya City with 15,000 infantrymen. However, the battle was already over, and it didn't seem appropriate to leave just like that. Therefore, Lin Muyu arranged a retreat route for him. Along the way, they would sweep away a few of the newly risen branches of the Hall of Chivalry in Lanyan City. It could be considered as doing the people a favor. Chapter 220. After traveling for 3 days, he returned to Lanyan City and handed the tiger tally to Qi Ying to bring back to Qihai Pass to hand it in. The Longdan army camp was brought back to Dragon Rocky Mountain by Luo Yu and Fengxi. They also trained the 4,000 new recruits. In this way, the total number of people in the Longdan army camp had reached 9,648, which was close to 10,000 people. Lin Muyu could be considered to have an army of 10,000 people outside. It could be said to be a mighty force. However, the price was that he had to pay Luo Yu another 500,000 Jin coins for the cost of weapons, rations, and war horses. It was very expensive to raise this mercenary army that did not rob the common people. Fortunately, Lin Muyu could afford it for now. At night, Zetian Palace held a celebration banquet. The Emperor Qin Jin and Princess Qin Yin personally celebrated for Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others. This trip had directly wiped out the forces of the House of Chivalry in Cangnan province. Even if they were to rise from the ashes, they would no longer have the momentum they had in the past. After 3 rounds of drinking, everyone was a little tipsy. At this time, Qin Jin stood up and said with a smile, You haven't returned to Zetian Palace for a long time. Imperial Father has something to say to you. Come, you and Xiao Yin can come to the rear hall together. Yes, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu bowed respectfully. Qin Yin smiled and walked over. She held his cloak and followed this sworn brother into the rear hall with a smile. The rear hall was empty, but the candles were brightly lit. The maids and officials had already been dismissed by Qin Jin. Under the candlelight, Qin Jin, who was wearing a dragon robe with golden dragons circling around it, stood with his hands behind his back and his back facing Lin Muyu. He said, How is Cangnan province? Lin Muyu was stunned. She did not know why he suddenly asked such a question. She cupped her fists and said, prosperous, strong and prosperous. That's all? Qin Jin turned around, raised his brows, and asked again, I heard that you've already fought with Long Qianlin, an outstanding general of the younger generation in Five Valley City. What do you think of Long Qianlin? Lin Muyu was calm as she replied, General Long Qianlin is a talented general with great command skills. The Flying Mount Battalion under his command is the cream of the crop. I have to admit that I'm no match for Long Qianlin if we were to clash on the battlefield. Really? Qin Jin smiled faintly and said, But I heard that Long Qianlin led the Flying Mount Battalion to attack the mountain, but he didn't get the slightest benefit from your hands. To be more precise, Long Qianlin lost to your strategy. No. Lin Muyu said faintly, he didn't lose in terms of strategy, but in terms of equipment and vanguard. I brought along the most elite heavy cavalry of the Tianchong army and 60 imperial guards to assist me in battle. The archery skills of Wei Chou and the others can be said to be the best in the world. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the flying cavalry battalion would have already taken down the Fire Axe Mountain. Let's not talk about this. Qin Jin suddenly changed the topic and asked, Do you know that Hu Tianning privately minted Jinin coins? Lin Muyu was slightly startled, and cold sweat involuntarily soaked his clothes. He cupped his fists and said with knitted brows, I didn't know. It's good that you didn't know. Qin Jin smiled faintly and reached out to pat his shoulder. He said, If you know and don't report, your crime is the same as deceiving the ruler. Do you understand? This general understands. Lin Muyu almost didn't dare to raise his head to look at Qin Jin's burning gaze. Who would dare say that Qin Jin was a muddle-headed and incompetent ruler? Lin Muyu definitely wouldn't agree. The Qin Jin before him was filled with wisdom, so much so that Lin Muyu felt afraid. Your Majesty. He paused for a moment, then asked, Since Your Majesty knows that Hu Tianning privately minted coins, why didn't you send troops to denounce him? Denounce him? Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. I only sent people to find out this information. How could I so easily attack a feudal lord without real evidence? Moreover, Long Qianlin is Hu Tianning's son-in-law and holds the military power of Cangnan province's 120,000 soldiers. If he really rebelled, I'm afraid Lanyan City would suffer a great calamity. You still have a lot to learn. Lin Muyu raised his head and glanced at him. She saw some affection in Qin Jin's eyes and asked, Imperial Father, do you already feel that you can't control Cangnan province? Yes. Qin Jin nodded without denying it. He sighed and said, Hu Tianning was once a general under the divine Marquis Zheng Yifeng. He is brave and skilled in battle, and has a lot of prestige in the army. His son-in-law Long Qianlin now holds a large number of troops and his nephew, Xianxia, is the commander of the military police battalion. He's a high-ranking general who controls the entire army. It's true that I can't go to war with Cangnan province right now. If I touch Hu Tianning, Cangnan province will definitely rebel. Lin Muyu was silent for a few seconds. Then she said, But if we delay for too long, I'm afraid unforeseen events will occur. Qin Jin smiled slightly. Yes, so I have a task to entrust to you. In the entire imperial capital, only you are the most suitable person to complete this task, so, what task? Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Yin, who was standing to the side, blushed but didn't say anything. Qin Jin stroked his beard and smiled. We want you to accompany Xiao Yin on a trip to her maternal grandfather's house, Muyu City? Yes. Qin Jin raised his head and said, "You have to go to Yunzhong province and do something as important as the heavens for us." Lin Muyu's heart sank. She seemed to have guessed something and said, "It has something to do with Tsangnan province, right?" Qin Jin smiled. "You is indeed extremely intelligent. In fact, you should have guessed that most of the documents we send to Yunzhong province will be intercepted. Zheng Yifun's influence is too great. If I send an imperial edict to invite Xiao Yin's maternal grandfather, Duke Muyun, to dispatch troops to the Five Valley City, I'm afraid that this imperial edict will be discovered halfway through the journey. Moreover, ordinary people won't be able to meet Duke Muyun, so you'll have to disguise yourself and escort Xiao Yin to Yunzhong province. It's just as Chu said, Xiao Yin needs real experience." "Your Majesty, wouldn't this be inappropriate?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "If it's only me, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to ensure Xiao Yin's safety." Don't you have confidence in yourself?" Qin Jin looked at him indifferently and said, "Among the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning four, you and Feng Jixing are the strongest. We can also see that your cultivation may be above Feng Jixing's, so no one is more suitable to accompany Xiao Yin to Yunzhong province than you. Moreover, in the imperial capital, Chu has been playing chess with divine Marquis Zheng Yifun every day and has Zheng Yifun firmly under his control in the imperial capital. With your and Xiao Yin's cultivation, who else do you have to worry about?" Lin Muyu was startled. It seemed that as the emperor said, she was already so strong. With the addition of Qin Yin who had the god-binding chains and the strength of the heaven realm, who else could there be? Perhaps Xianxia would be one, but Xianxia would never make a move against Qin Yin. After all, if he wanted to be promoted and get rich, he had to protect Qin Yin, the heir to the throne. If the world really fell into chaos, Xianxia might not even be able to make it as a commander. Moreover, Lin Muyu had now comprehended the fourth element of the seven luminaries' profound energy, and her strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Even if Xianxia really came, he and Qin Yin might not lose even if they joined forces. The most important thing was disguise. As long as they disguised themselves well, no one would be able to discover them. "Clap, clap," Qin Jin clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Bring out the luggage." Immediately, two attendants walked over with a tray in their hands. On the tray were two sets of tattered clothes. One set of men's clothes and the other set of women's clothes. They looked as if they had been stripped from the bodies of beggars on the streets. Beside the women's clothes was a worn-out seven-stringed zither, and beside the men's clothes was a rusty iron sword. "This is?" Lin Muyu was completely confused. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Chu has already prepared identities for you. A pair of brother and sister who are traveling the martial world. The younger sister plays the zither for a living while the older brother performs sword dances and acrobatics for a living. What do you think?" He actually looked a little pleased with himself. What else could Lin Muyu say? She cupped her fists and said, "Your Majesty is mighty." Qin Yin, on the other hand, looked excited. She said with a smile, "Big brother you, does this mean that you've already agreed to go sightseeing with me? No, to train in the martial world?" Lin Muyu looked at her helplessly and said, But Xiao Yin, you must be prepared to endure hardships. The outside world is not like the Zetian Palace Hall. There are many hardships that you can't imagine." "I know," Qin Jin said with a smile. Qin Jin smiled and said, "I've already asked people to prepare 2 old horses for you. You too can take your time to get to Cloud Province. Don't be in a hurry, and remember to make a living as a performer along the way. Also, you'll have to find someone to help you disguise yourselves. Otherwise, with your looks, it'll be difficult for you two not to be recognized, yes?" Sure enough, Qin Jin ordered 2 maidservants to style Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. An hour later, Lin Muyu's face had 2 scars that had coagulated for a long time, while Qin Yin's beautiful face was covered with a few freckles and other stains. This caused the number 1 beauty in the empire to instantly fall out of the top 10,000. However, the outstanding looks between her brows could still be vaguely seen. Following the emperor's orders, they were not allowed to greet anyone. Thus, they left Lanyan City in the middle of the night and mingled with a group of acrobats who were entering the palace to perform. They left Zetian Palace Hall and rode 2 thin and weak old horses out of Lanyan City. The cold wind blew in the night. Lin Muyu wore a thin cloak and carried the dragon spirit sword and a rusty iron sword wrapped in black cloth on her back. After leaving the city, she turned to look at Qin Yin, only to find that the princess was holding the 7-string zither on her back and holding the reins. Her eyes were like stars as she looked at everything outside excitedly and curiously. Her heart was jumping with joy like a bird that had just been released from its cage. "Are you happy?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yin smiled faintly. "Of course I'm happy to come out to train with Big Brother Yu." "Where's Big Brother Yu? Are you happy coming out with Xiao Yin?" Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, "I'm afraid that if I say I'm not happy, you'll push me out." Qin Yin burst into laughter. "Don't always make me laugh. Xiaoxi said that girls who laugh all the time will get wrinkles very early." All right. I won't tease you anymore. Hurry up and find an inn on the official road outside the city as soon as possible. Yes. Chapter 221. The Cloud Ancient Road was one of the oldest official roads in the empire. It led from Lanyan City to Muyu City. There were hundreds of guest houses along the way. It was said that the Cloud Ancient Road was even older than the Qin Empire. It had existed for tens of thousands of years. The night was dark. A man and a woman rode their horses slowly on the ancient road. Lin Muyu touched the neck of the horse. She couldn't help but feel sorry for it. This old horse was probably about the same age as her. It was dying, but it still had to do such a hard job. He looked up at the sky and couldn't help but worry. The clouds are dense. It's either going to snow or rain. Qin Yin tied her cloak with a ladle-like button in front of her chest. She smiled and said, "Brother Yu, since we came out together, shouldn't we give each other a new name?" "Sure. What should I call you?" "How about this, we'll use your surname. I'm Lin Yin and you're Lin Yu. What do you think?" "Lin Yu?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "It sounds like we're going to get wet in the rain." "It's a bit ominous." As soon as he finished speaking, a drop of rain fell on his nose. He wiped it. It was a little cold. He hurriedly grabbed the reins and said, "It's going to rain. Xiao Yin, let's go quickly. There should be a small town ahead." But it didn't take long for the winter rain to start. Fortunately, there was a dim light on the road ahead. There was a house. Dismounting from the horse, Lin Muyu picked up a worn-out oil paper umbrella and opened it with a whoosh, only to find that there were 7 or 8 holes in it. She couldn't help but smile. Qin Jin really didn't care about his daughter and godson. The umbrella he prepared for them was almost dispensable. However, he still covered Qin Yin with the umbrella. Qin Yin looked up at him and smiled sweetly. "No need. I'll use the cloak to block the wind and rain. But your cloak is only made of coarse cloth. It can't block the rain at all." "Oh, that's true." Qin Yin stuck out her tongue, almost forgetting that she was no longer wearing the exquisite princess cloak. The two of them led the horse and walked towards the light. After a few minutes, they entered the small town. They could see restaurants and inns in the distance. There were many merchants, cultivators, mercenaries, and travelers on the ancient cloud path. The business in the small town along the way was very good, especially when it was raining and they were in the middle of nowhere. There were more and more people in the town. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin didn't stand out when they walked in the crowd. After all, the shabby cloaks they wore made them look no different from people who wandered the world. First, they found a place to eat and rest. Lin Muyu's eyes kept looking at the shops on both sides. Suddenly, her eyes stopped on a huge horizontal board with a line of words written on it. She couldn't help but read it aloud. "The beef cow hates the pot and the iron mountain. Wow, there's actually such a domineering poem in this rural area." "What poem?" Qin Yin pouted and held his hand. "Why don't you read it upside down?" Lin Muyu was speechless. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. She pouted and said, "Just write it properly. Why do they have to write it upside down?" "I really can't see through them." Qin Yin held back her laughter. "Brother, where are we going to sleep tonight?" How about this iron pot restaurant? Let's eat first and then find a place to sleep. No! Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were like water. She glanced at their clothes and laughed softly. Do you think our attire and occupation are suitable to eat expensive beef loaf? That's true, Lin Muyu pointed to the front and said, there's a wine shop there. It also provides accommodation. Let's stay there? Qin Yin smiled and nodded. The tavern was bustling with people, and business was good. There was an umbrella dragon's head hanging on the eaves of the tavern. It looked a little scary, and the name of the tavern was written below it, Umbrella Dragon Tavern. From afar, a waiter greeted them with a smile on his face. Would you like to have a meal or stay here? Yes, we are. Lin Muyu asked, how much does it cost to stay here for a night? The waiter led the horse over and smiled. The two of you are husband and wife, right? A first-class husband and wife room is only 10 silver coins a night. Lin Muyu was about to agree immediately. He didn't want Qin Yin to suffer too much with him. However, he didn't expect Qin Yin to take off her cloak and reveal a freckled face. She smiled and said, waiter, how much is a second-class room for a night? 3 silver coins. Then give us a second-class room. Alright, please come in. I will help you get a room and feed the horse. Thank you. After entering the wine shop, they found that it was indeed a foul atmosphere. There were dozens of tables in the huge wine shop's lobby, and almost all of them were occupied. There were all kinds of people. There were wild mercenaries wielding axes, gentle scholars, and even merchants silently calculating their gains and losses. All of them were busy with their own things. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's hand and sat down in a corner of the wine shop. He called out to the waiter and asked, Xiao Yin, what would you like to eat? Qin Yin smiled and said in a natural and unrestrained manner, let's eat something simple. After all, we don't have much silver coins left. Waiter, can we have 2 portions of coarse bread and a bowl of vegetable soup? Alright, please wait for a moment. The waiter nodded and bowed before leaving. Not long after, their dinner was served. Even Lin Muyu, who was used to the harsh life in the army, was stunned. The coarse bread was really coarse and as hard as iron. She almost had to use the dragon spirit sword to slice it. As for the vegetable soup, it was already slightly cold. No wonder these 2 servings of food only cost 10 copper coins. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and couldn't help but smile. She dipped the coarse bread into the vegetable soup and said, Brother, it can be bitten like this. Oh, is that so? Lin Muyu looked at her with a smile. Qin Yin opened her cherry lips and took a bite of the bread. Suddenly, she was petrified. How could she have known that the bread was so hard? She blushed and put down the bread. Looks like I'll have to soak it a little longer, Lin Muyu laughed heartily. It wasn't easy to eat something warm in this cold weather. Moreover, they couldn't show off their skills here. Otherwise, it would be easy for others to discover the truth. After finishing the meal with great difficulty, the waiter of the tavern clapped his hands and said with a smile, Dear friends of Jianghu and Yunzhong Ancient Road, next up is the wonderful program that this tavern has prepared for everyone. Our shopkeeper has specially invited a few exquisite beauties from the western region. They are good at playing the huqin. I hope that everyone will do me the honor. Please. Amidst the hustle and bustle, 5 women dressed in thin clothes walked to the simple wooden stage in the center of the hall with huqin in their arms. After bowing gracefully, they began to play and sing some songs that Lin Muyu couldn't understand. Although she couldn't understand them, the melody seemed pretty good. Qin Yin sat there with a smile on her face, enjoying the moment of peace. After the song, the waiter walked up to the stage again and put his arm around the shoulders of 2 of the beauties from the western region. He smiled and said, Friends, as you can see, the beauties of our Umbrella Dragon Tavern are both talented and skilled. It's winter now, and the weather is cold. I'm sure all of you don't want to sleep alone. We've all tasted the feeling of being alone. So, you can bring these 5 beauties back to your room to accompany you to sleep. However, the highest bidder wins. Now, is there anyone willing to bring the beauties on my left? A drunk mercenary in the crowd raised his axe high and laughed. 5, I want all of them. 5 Jinin coins, deal. Whoever dares to compete with me, I'll chop him in half with my axe. The waiter was stunned. He smiled and said, Sir, the number of beauties in the tavern is limited. You can't take them all. Besides, isn't one Jin coin too cheap? None of your business. I want them. The mercenary carried his axe and staggered forward. The waiter's eyes flashed and he suddenly stepped forward. His palm was filled with Xianxia, and he seized the mercenary's vital acupoint on the mercenary's wrist. He pushed the mercenary out of the door and said with a smile, Sir, you've drunk too much. You'd better rest early. The waiter pushed the mercenary away lightly and the mercenary fell into the mud outside with a grunt. Lin Muyu frowned. She didn't expect there to be such an expert in the tavern. That waiter was at least at the second level of the Earth realm. Everyone continued to eat and drink. Let's continue to fight for these Western region beauties. The waiter nodded and bowed to the crowd with a cheeky smile. Soon, the 5 Western region women were taken away to serve the guests, and the tavern fell into an awkward atmosphere. They probably didn't prepare any other programs. At this moment, Qin stood up and said to the waiter, My brother and I are entertainers who travel the martial world. May I ask if we can perform a song for everyone in your tavern? The waiter's eyes lit up. Although Qin had put on makeup, the waiter could still see the girl's elegant and refined appearance. He nodded and smiled. Sure, please, miss. Okay, thank you. Qin tugged at Lin Muyu, a gentle smile in her eyes. She laughed softly and said, I've said that we'll be performing along the way, you can't be lazy. Xiao, play the zither, I'll practice the sword, okay. Lin Muyu braced himself and walked onto the stage with Qin. He raised his hand and pulled out the rusty iron sword on his back. He cupped his fists and smiled at the crowd. He said loudly, My sister and I are entertainers in the martial world. We pass by this place, so we will perform a zither dance to thank you. If you think it's good, you can give us some money. If you think it's not good, you can just laugh it off. Everyone was solemn, and their eyes all fell on Qin beside him. They were all looking at the beautiful girls. Who had time to look at the handsome guy? Qin sat down gracefully. Her Royal Highness's temperament and etiquette were not something that ordinary women could possess. She tightened the strings of the 7-stringed guqin and placed it on her thighs. With a light wave of her hand, the first melody was already playing in the tavern. It was melodious and sweet, as if a young girl was expressing her thoughts. Lin Muyu was a little speechless. He was good at killing people with a sword, but to accompany a sword dance, this was a little difficult for him. In desperation, he followed the rhythm of the melody and waved his long sword gently. There was nothing else but the routine of the wind-riding swordsmanship. Chapter 222. In the middle of the song, the river suddenly changed. Qin Yin's melody instantly changed from a gentle melody to the clanging of horses and spears. Lin Muyu also understood what she meant. With a flick of his wrist, the blade of his sword cut through the wind. He performed the wind formula of the wind-riding sword technique. The rusty iron sword in his hand seemed to have turned into a sharp killing weapon. Streaks of cold light flashed on the stage. Seeing this, the group of rangers and mercenaries in the tavern couldn't help but cheer. Although he was just selling his artiste, this young man's swordsmanship seemed to be quite accomplished. The reason why Lin Muyu showed this move was simple. He wanted to tell those who had fantasies about Qin to think about his strength. If they couldn't even defeat him, then they shouldn't think about him anymore. At the end of the song, many swordsmen and mercenaries below the stage took out their money and tossed it onto the stage. Ding ding dang dang, dang dang. There were silver kin coins, copper kin coins, and even gold kin coins. Lin Muyu picked up the money from the white pouch. Of course, he couldn't let Qin do this. When he raised his head, he saw Qin looking at him with a gentle gaze. What's wrong? He asked. Qin smiled faintly. Nothing. I think today is the happiest day of my life, is that so? Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows and smiled. It's okay. You'll still be as happy in the future. Really? Yes. That's great, Qin Yin's girlish demeanor deepened. She snuggled up to Lin Muyu. The group of hot-blooded mercenaries and rangers couldn't stand it anymore. Perhaps, if Qin Yin removed her makeup and revealed her true appearance, these people would be even more mesmerized. After all, the title of the #1 beauty in Lanyan City wasn't just for show. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yin returned to their seats, the door of the tavern suddenly creaked open. In the cold wind, a man in a black cloak walked in. He lifted the cloak and revealed a resolute face. With a faint smile, he said, "Shopkeeper, do you need people to perform tricks here?" The waiter looked at him in disdain. "What do you know?" The man smiled. "I tame some small pets to entertain all of you." "There's no need to embarrass yourself by taming pets like monkeys and dogs." "No, what I tamed was something else." "What? Bring it out." "Okay." The man whistled behind him and smiled. "Little umbrella, come out." Roar. It was a young dragon's roar. An umbrella dragon at least 3 meters long climbed up from outside. Its golden eyes looked at the people around it without a trace of fear. However, the people in the tavern were startled. Umbrella dragon. Oh my God, it's a 200-year-old umbrella dragon. Who is this kid? How can he tame a dragon? Could he be the legendary Dragon Knight? Bulsh *T. Have you seen a dragon knight riding an umbrella dragon? At this moment, the dragon tamer walked in and said with a smile, "My name is Du Yiming. I'm a juggler in the pugilistic world. I tamed a young umbrella dragon by chance, so I brought it here to perform for all of you. If you have money, please support me. If you don't have money, please support me. I thank all of you." Du Yiming looked refined. He raised his left arm. Instantly, the umbrella dragon cried out and placed its front paw on Du Yiming's hand. It actually learned to walk with him. The umbrella-shaped wings on its huge head opened, and a pair of golden eyes looked at the people around it with curiosity. It was quite cute. Qin Yin couldn't help but laugh. "Big brother you, this umbrella dragon is so interesting." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. She didn't say anything. She was more concerned about how Du Yiming could tame a 200-year-old umbrella dragon. He looked like he was only at the first level of Earth Realm. The umbrella dragon wasn't just an ordinary spirit beast. It was a low-level dragon. On the stage, the young umbrella dragon rolled around and ran around, making the group of travelers laugh. Silver and copper coins naturally fell onto the stage. Du Yiming knelt on one knee. As he picked up the coins, his gaze fell on Qin Yin, who was sitting in the corner. His heart was in turmoil. This young lady was not simple. Her words, actions, and appearance were all top-notch. If it weren't for the freckles on her face, she would be a peerless beauty. After the juggling, Du Yiming asked for a bowl of meat soup and 2 pieces of soft bread. He walked over with the umbrella dragon and said with a smile, "Young hero, young lady, there are no extra seats here. Can I share a table?" Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Go ahead." "Thank you." In the end, the umbrella dragon knelt on Qin Yin's body. It blinked its big eyes, and the umbrella leaves around its head opened and closed slowly. It seemed to be acting cute. Qin Yin's maiden heart melted. She wasn't afraid. She reached out and gently stroked the umbrella dragon's head. She smiled and said, "Wow, what a good little dragon." Du Yiming chewed the bread and smiled. "Young lady, do you like my little umbrella?" Qin Yin didn't deny it. Du Yiming smiled. "May I know where you and young lady are from and where are you going?" Lin Muyu said, "My name is Lin Yu, and this is my younger sister, Lin Yin. We've been performing and wandering the world. This time, we're going to Muyu City. I heard that it's better to be a performer there." "I see." Du Yiming smiled. "I'm Du Yiming, and I'm going to Muyu City too. How about the 3 of us travel together? We can take care of each other this way. Is that okay?" Lin Muyu furrowed her brows, showing a hint of unwillingness. Du Yiming was a smart man. He looked at Qin Yin and said with a smile, "Young lady Lin Yin seems to like my little umbrella very much. They can spend more time together on the way, no need." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were shining with wisdom. My brother and I are used to wandering the world alone. We won't disturb you. I see. Du Yiming was a little disappointed. He said with a smile, I thought that if young Lady Lin Yin likes the little umbrella, I could share my knowledge of animal taming with you. Animal taming? Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. He knew the power of a spirit beast. Didn't the pale crane almost kill the king with the help of a 10,000-year dragon snake? If Qin Yin learned animal taming, it would definitely be a good thing. Thinking of this, he immediately cupped his fists and said with a smile, Xiao Yin likes small animals. If young Master Du is really willing to teach her animal taming, let's travel together. Du Yiming laughed. Okay, it's a deal. Let's set off together tomorrow morning? Late at night, the rain was getting heavier. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled outside. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's room was near the periphery. The lightning seemed to have turned into a tomahawk and was about to tear the window open. Qin Yin was restless lying on the bed. She tilted her head and looked at Lin Muyu who was lying on the ground. She pouted and said, Brother, it's too cold on the ground. Why don't you come up? I'm a little scared. Lin Muyu rolled up his cloak. In fact, he was also very cold. We are brother and sister. What are you worried about? Qin Yin said again. Lin Muyu debated with himself for a few seconds. He immediately wrapped himself in his cloak and stood up. He came to the bed and sat down. Qin Yin giggled. Why don't you take off your cloak? If you think it's inappropriate for men and women to touch each other, you can sleep with your clothes on. Okay. Lin Muyu took off his cloak. Qin Yin lifted one side of the blanket and said with a smile, Don't worry. Father won't know about this. You don't have to worry. This sentence made Lin Muyu's face turn red. I'm not scared. Then why are you trembling with fear? Look at you, your face is pale. While he was stuttering, Qin Yin pressed him down on the bed and covered him with the blanket. In the end, Lin Muyu's heart was beating extremely fast. He lay there as if he was about to faint. Qin Yin's face turned even redder. She turned to look out the window. Looking at the thunder and lightning, her beautiful face had a trace of loneliness. She said, Who are you? Lin Muyu was stunned. In fact, he also knew that his identity was too suspicious. He was incompatible with this world. Qin Yin was so smart. How could she not guess something? On the other hand, Qin Yin closed her eyes. Her face was full of peace. She said, No matter who you are, Xiao Yin likes you. She said it very calmly. Lin Muyu's mind went blank. He hesitated for a few seconds. He felt that he had to obey the princess's order. Otherwise, he would be committing an unpardonable crime. So he turned around and put his arm across Qin Yin's slender waist. He gently hugged her. Xiao Yin likes me. What kind is it? He asked. Qin Yin's delicate body trembled slightly. Her soft hand gently covered Lin Muyu's palm. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. It seemed to confirm her heart at this moment. After a while, she said faintly, For a lifetime, we love each other. Lin Muyu's heart warmed. Although he was confused, there was one thing he was sure of. He liked Qin Yin. He liked everything about her. The person he liked also liked him. This was a great blessing. His palm unconsciously tightened. He hugged Qin Yin and said, It's a pity that I don't belong to this world. Xiao Yin, However, Qin Yin suddenly turned around and their eyes met, interrupting him from continuing. Her bright eyes shone with a mesmerizing light as she looked deeply into Lin Muyu's eyes. She smiled faintly and said, No matter who you is, no matter where you come from, and no matter how many people object, nothing can stop me from liking you. What do you think? Lin Muyu was so moved that he was about to cry. Qin Yin said softly, Brother Yu, if one day Xiao Yin ascends to the throne and becomes the empress, are you willing to be the empress for me? Be the empress? Lin Muyu was stunned again. I don't even know what to eat tomorrow morning. I really don't know how to answer you when you ask me such a faraway plan, Qin Yin giggled. She stretched out her snow-white arms and hugged his neck. Sleep. But how could he sleep like this? Chapter 223. The next morning, the heavy rain did not stop, but they could not delay their journey, so they had to set off after breakfast. They bought 2 new cloaks with the money they earned from performing last night. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin put them on. This was a kind of cloak that could block the wind and rain, and was very suitable for traveling. Young hero Lin, why are your eyes so red? Du Yiming was leading a horse, and he saw the key problem at a glance. Of course, Lin Muyu could not say that she slept with Qin Yin last night, tossing and turning the whole night between touching her and not touching her, and she did not sleep at all. If she said that, Qin Yin would kill her, so she said, I'm not used to the climate here, so I can't sleep. I have a bottle of tranquilizer here, if you don't mind, please accept it. No need, thank you. Lin Muyu did not want to owe people too much, so she refused flatly, then came to Qin Yin's side, helped her up the horse, and said with a smile, let's go, let's continue our journey. Qin Yin nodded with a smile, and her beautiful face was slightly rosy, as beautiful as the morning clouds, like a newly married young wife, and Lin Muyu was a little dazed. Indeed, beautiful women, this species was absolutely lethal to men. He could not help but think of the question Qin Yin asked last night. Do you like me or Xiaoxi? I like both. Then which one do you like more? I like both. You bastard, do you still want to eat both? Her Royal Highness threatened fiercely, in the future, you can only like me, oh no, only like me a little more, or I'll ask father to cut your salary. It's okay, I have money. Boo-hoo, I'm so angry. Women were the ultimate creatures of jealousy, and men were probably the ultimate creatures of control. In fact, when they were petty, they were much scarier than women. The 3 of them rode slowly on the ancient path in the clouds. Lin Muyu held an umbrella and rested with her eyes closed. She silently circulated the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll to temper her bloodline and battle aura in order to raise her cultivation. At the same time, she extended her spirit pulse technique. There was no one with a strong aura within a radius of several miles. She guessed that they had not been followed. Beside her, Du Yiming was trying to please Qin Yin. The umbrella dragon was following the 3 of them in the forest not far away. Young Master Du, didn't you say that you would teach Xiao Yin the animal taming technique? Lin Muyu suddenly asked. Du Yiming came to a sudden realization. Oh, I almost forgot. All right, then I'll start teaching Miss Xiao Yin the mantra of the art of taming beasts. Repeat after me. The spirit of all beasts has a ruler. Heaven's creation has endless uses. Lin Muyu continued to close her eyes and rested. She didn't try to secretly learn it. After all, it would be the same for Qin Yin to teach her after she learned it. Not long after, Du Yiming began to teach Qin Yin how to communicate with wild beasts and communicate with them. However, it seemed that Qin Yin still couldn't grasp the gist of it. After trying a few times, she couldn't even communicate with the warhorse. Du Yiming, on the other hand, patted his warhorse's head and said, Horse, horse, cry 3 times for me to hear. The warhorse raised its head and cried 3 times. It was very magical. It seemed that this Du Yiming did have some ability. Oh, Qin Yin closed her eyes, but she still couldn't communicate with the warhorse. She couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. Lin Muyu gently said, Don't rush, take it slow. This immediately calmed Qin Yin down. She smiled and nodded. Yes, this made Du Yiming feel bad. A look of jealousy flashed across his face. At dusk, the heavy rain seemed to be about to stop. Qin Yin pulled the belt of the cloak in front of her chest and lifted the hood on her head. Her long hair fluttered gently in the wind. She touched her wet face, but she didn't want to touch the freckles. She carelessly stuck the freckles on her hand. Lin Muyu saw this and hurriedly said, Xiao Yin, that? Qin Yin didn't know. She looked at him with wide eyes. What's wrong? At this time, Du Yiming looked over and saw Qin Yin's snow-white and flawless face. Suddenly, that gorgeous and graceful peerless face appeared in front of him. Du Yiming's eyes widened in an instant. He was almost petrified. He murmured, There's actually such a fairy-like woman in this world. Only then did Qin Yin realize that her freckles had fallen off. It was useless to be anxious. Anyway, she couldn't hide it from Du Yiming. Lin Muyu was calmer and said, "Stick it on, okay?" Qin Yin stuck the freckles on her face again, reducing her beauty by more than 50%. Lin Muyu said with a smile, "Young Master Du, my sister Xiao Yin is indeed outstanding. The martial world is dangerous. For the convenience of traveling, we can only use this method. I hope you can keep this secret for us." Of course, Du Yiming nodded repeatedly. "It's getting late. Let's walk a few more miles and find an inn to stay in?" Not long before, there was indeed an inn. Du Yiming led the horse and walked in front. He said with a smile, "I know the innkeeper of this inn. He's an old friend of mine. His name is Lu Jun. He'll definitely prepare a cheap first-class room for us tonight." "Okay, thank you." After entering the inn, as expected, a wretched-looking man of about 30 years old came forward. He said with a smile, "Brother Du, long time no see. How have you been?" "Good." Du Yiming caressed the head of the umbrella dragon and said with a smile, "Brother Lu, my 2 friends and I will be staying here for the night. Sorry to disturb you. Could you please arrange 2 superior rooms for them?" "Okay, no problem." Lu Jun laughed loudly, but his eyes lingered on Qin Yin. Lin Muyu was a little angry. This Lu Jun was not a good person. He was very despicable. But since she was in someone else's territory, she would endure it if she could. This time, it was a superior room. There were 2 beds and the bedding was very soft. At least she could sleep well. If she continued to hug Qin Yin to sleep, Lin Muyu was very sure that she would not be able to sleep at all. It was too unbearable. After dinner, they went to bed early. But for safety's sake, Lin Muyu still spread out the spirit pulse art and maintained a state of alert under the condition of light sleep. On the other hand, Qin Yin hugged the quilt and slept very sweetly. Lying on her side on the bed facing Lin Muyu, her sleeping face looked very beautiful. Late at night, Lin Muyu opened her eyes and let out a sigh of relief. The spirit pulse art was still spread out, searching for the surrounding energy aura. There were 2 cultivators living downstairs, both of whom were at the 3rd sky of the human realm. They were quite strong, but in Lin Muyu's eyes, they were not worth mentioning. Soon, her spirit pulse art found Du Yiming's room, but she found 2 auras. Something was wrong. Lin Muyu immediately used her battle energy to strengthen the hearing of the spirit pulse art. She could faintly hear the conversation between Du Yiming and Lu Jun. "Brother Du, these 2 people today. How did you know them? That girl looks like she's a real gem. Brother Lu, you really have a good eye. Actually, the stain on Lin Yin's face is fake. If she removes the disguise, she can be said to be a peerless beauty. I really pity her. Is it really like what Brother Du said?" "It's absolutely true. If it wasn't for the sake of learning the animal taming art from me, I'm afraid that Lin Yu wouldn't have let me follow them. They don't know that I've slightly modified the formula. No matter how smart Lin Yin is, she won't be able to learn the animal taming art. Brother Du, when are we going to make our move? That Lin Yu has 2 swords with him. It looks like he's quite strong." No matter how strong he is, he's only at the 1st sky of the Earth realm. After midnight, a tube of sleeping incense will make him unconscious. At that time, we'll enjoy that beauty Lin Yin first, then kill Lin Yu and sell her to the biggest restaurant in Lanyan City as a hostess. With her beauty, we can sell her for at least 10,000 Jinin coins. Okay, I'll prepare the sleeping incense. But Lin Muyu slowly opened her eyes and sighed inwardly at the sinister nature of people. She got up and went to Qin Yin's side. She patted her shoulder and said softly, "Xiao Yin, wake up." Qin Yin, however, seemed to be dreaming. She opened her arms and hugged Lin Muyu. She mumbled, "Big brother Yu." This call almost made Lin Muyu drown, but she still opened her palm and the spirit pulse technique seeped into Qin Yin's mind. In the next moment, Qin Yin had already woken up. She opened her eyes wide and blushed. "Big brother Yu, what do you want to do?" "What else can I do?" Lin Muyu shook her head helplessly. She took out 2 bottles of concentration powder from her universe bag and said, Du Yiming and Lu Jun want to use sleeping incense to harm us. This is concentration powder. It can resist 100 poisons. Shall we drink it? Qin Yin obediently drank the concentration powder. Lin Muyu also drank a bottle. She then lay on the bed and said, "Pretend to be asleep. It won't be too late to kill them when they make a move." Okay, they waited like this for a long time. Finally, there was a rustling sound from outside. The paper window was broken, and a strange fragrance came in. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin continued to pretend to be asleep. Another 10 minutes later, the door was opened with a squeak. Lu Jun and Du Yiming walked in. After closing the door, Lu Jun said, "Are you all dead asleep?" "That's for sure. My 100 poison ecstasy fragrance deserves its reputation." Lu Jun walked forward and shook Lin Muyu's shoulder. "Young hero Lin, wake up." Lin Muyu pretended not to know and continued to sleep. "Heh, she's really enchanted." Lu Jun chuckled and walked to Qin Yin's bedside. He said with a smile, "This charming little vixen is indeed beautiful after removing her makeup. Let me kiss her first." At this moment, Du Yiming pulled out his long sword and said with a smile, "I'll send you to heaven first, Lin Yu." But at this moment, a golden light flashed, and a glowing golden gourd vine broke out from the ground, wrapping around Du Yiming. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out her iron sword, and with a swing, the blade of the sword was filled with the glow of battle energy. Heaven realm, Du Yiming's eyes widened. Before he could finish speaking, his heart was already pierced. And Qin Yin opened her eyes. Lu Jun, who was close to her, was so frightened that he screamed and took a few steps back. At this moment, the cute umbrella dragon rushed over and pounced at Qin Yin with its claws and fangs bared. Buzz! The god-binding chains suddenly lit up and pierced through the umbrella dragon's abdomen, killing it instantly. Ping! Lu Jun broke through the window and actually escaped. Lin Muyu jumped out of the window with her sword in hand. She looked carefully at the surrounding night but couldn't find Lu Jun's figure. This Lu Jun didn't have a trace of cultivation, so the spirit pulse technique couldn't detect his location. "You're lucky," Lin Muyu snorted coldly and jumped up to the second floor. "Xiao Yin will leave at night. We can't stay here anymore." Lin Muyu bent down and searched Du Yiming's body. She immediately found a secret manual in his clothes. The words, "Art of Psychic Communication," were written on it in yellowed handwriting. So it was this. She immediately passed it to Qin Yin and went downstairs with her horse. In the corner of the stable, a stallion was peeing. The urine flowed down the top of a person's head. This person was trembling all over as he squatted on the ground and looked into the distance. He said with a trembling voice, "My mother, what kind of people are these? They're too scary. Brother Du, you've sacrificed your life for our fellows in the flower-collecting world. Rest in peace, we will always remember you." Chapter 224. The next morning, the heavy rain had stopped. A strange scene appeared on the ancient path in the clouds. A handsome young man was riding a skinny horse, and beside him was a beautiful girl riding another skinny horse. However, the horse that the girl was riding was actually moving backwards. "So fun," Qin Yin giggled. She held a book in her hand, which was the Art of Psychic Communication. She pressed her snow-white palm on the head of the skinny horse and said with a smile, "Big brother you, guess what the horse is thinking about? It must be thinking about whether it can eat fresh grass or hay for lunch." Lin Muyu replied with a smile. Qin Yin's mouth opened wide. "How did you know?" Is there even a need to think about it? I can guess it." Lin Muyu led the way in front and said, "Xiao Yin, stop torturing this skinny horse. Let it walk normally. At this speed, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the next inn by night." "All right." Qin Yin patted the horse's back and said with a smile, Horse, you can walk normally now." The skinny horse neighed as if it had been pardoned. It turned around and no longer wanted to be tortured by the princess. It shook its head and tail as if it was very proud. After psychic communication, The warhorse naturally knew that the girl on its back was someone above tens of thousands of people. It couldn't help but feel that it was no longer a normal horse, but a divine horse of the princess. Xiao, is this art of psychic communication really that magical? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yi nodded. You can use the power of soul to communicate with spiritual beasts. However, the prerequisite is that the spiritual beast must be weaker than you. Otherwise, the spiritual beast will not communicate with humans at all. After communicating, you can use the absolute power of soul to conquer the spiritual beast. Naturally, you can tame the umbrella dragon like Du Yiming did. However, Du Yiming is, Qin blushed and said, that kind of rapist is not worth mentioning. Furthermore, Du Yiming's cultivation is low. This art of psychic communication has a total of 8 scrolls, and Du Yiming has only barely cultivated to the 2nd level. He is still far from the highest level of psychic communication. Is that so? Lin Muyu stretched out her hand and said with a smile, Come, Xiao, let me learn as well. Qin giggled. You also wants to tame spirit beasts? Lin Muyu nodded. How cool and arrogant it is to have a powerful pet. What do you think, Xiao? Yeah, Qin pursed her red lips and said, It's a pity that there aren't any powerful spiritual beasts on this official road. Otherwise, we could tame a spiritual beast and test out the power of the spirit communication technique. There's nothing wrong with that. Lin Muyu took the spiritual communication technique and stuffed it into her bosom. She then unfurled the map and said, The ancient path in the clouds runs through the dragon-seeking forest. As long as we leave the area protected by the ancient path in the clouds, we'll be able to enter the dragon-seeking forest. By then, we'll be able to tame any spiritual beast we want. Of course, the prerequisite is that we don't go too deep. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't even be able to keep our lives. Is that really possible? Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were wide open and filled with hope. Yes, we'll replenish our rations and water at the inn ahead at noon. After that, we can set off for the dragon-seeking forest. We won't take too long of a detour, so it won't affect our journey. Yes, okay. At noon, she replenished half a month's worth of dry rations at the inn in front. It was mostly bread and some water. She also bought an iron pot, a ladle, a simple tent, and so on. She threw them all into her cosmos sack. The iron pot and the white diamond crystals mixed together seemed out of place, but Lin Muyu didn't care about it. She didn't care about trifles if she wanted to achieve great things. In the afternoon, they took a detour into the dragon-seeking forest. Qin waved her purple blade and opened the way in front while Lin Muyu walked behind her. She held the spiritual communication technique book in her hands and carefully studied it. The first volume of the spiritual communication technique, Beast Language, mainly focused on how to understand the general meaning of the beast language so that it would be easier to communicate with wild beasts. In the Shattered Cauldron realm, the spirit beasts were all spiritual beings born from the spirit of the earth. They were ever-changing, but they were still the same. The first volume emphasized on the urgency, slowness, length, and shortness of the beast language to analyze the meaning of the beast language. This was considered the first step in communicating with wild beasts. This was simple. Lin Muyu spent less than an hour to memorize it. The second volume, Spiritual Communication Technique. This was the most crucial chapter. It allowed one's spiritual perception to invade the spirit of wild beasts and fuse with the spirit beast soul. With Qin Yin's cultivation, she had already mastered the spiritual communication technique in the morning. On the other hand, Lin Muyu was even faster. Because his spirit meridian art had already tempered his spirit to the point that it far surpassed other cultivators of the same cultivation level, his spirit was much stronger than Qin Yin's. Therefore, he understood it with just one try. In less than 10 minutes, he could already communicate with his warhorse. The moment he communicated with it, his mind was filled with the smell of some green bristlegrass, clear root grass, horsetail grass, and other plants. That was all the warhorse's mind could think about all day long. It was still early. He looked at the horizon, then looked at Qin Yin, who was innately brandishing her sharp sword and activating her martial soul to cut down the thorns. He couldn't help but smile. It was time for the princess, Xianxia, to gain some experience. Surviving in the wilderness was originally a way to hone one's willpower. As the princess of the empire, Xianxia had a lot to bear in the future. The more she gained experience here, the more she could become a wise emperor. Continuing to practice, the third volume, the subjugation technique. The main content of this volume was to use one's own spirit to forcefully subjugate a beast spirit, making the spirit beast submit to one's will. This feeling was similar to forceful taming. That Du Yiming did not seem to be able to achieve this step, probably because the strength of his spirit was not strong enough. Flipping through it further, there were still 5 more volumes in order: nurturing, assimilation, armor transformation, sky-piercing, and spirit transformation. The more he listened, the more he felt it was amazing. But he could only take it one step at a time. He had to complete the subjugation technique first. After studying it carefully for a while and memorizing all the words of the spiritual communication technique, Lin Muyu returned the book to Qianxia. He then sat upon his warhorse and slowly circulated his dou qi, raising the strength of his spirit. Following the subjugation technique's mantra, he practiced it repeatedly. Not long after, he felt a warm current in his mind, as if it had seeped into his entire body. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. This was the power of beast taming mentioned in the spiritual communication technique. If he did not have this kind of power, he would not be able to truly tame a spirit beast. It was obvious that the relationship between Du Yiming and the umbrella dragon was not one of taming, but one of dependence. If one truly wanted to tame a spirit beast, they would have to sign a soul contract. Once Du Yiming died, the umbrella dragon would definitely die with its soul scattered. A pity that even after Du Yiming's death, the umbrella dragon still continued to attack Qianxia. It was enough to show that Du Yiming's mastery in the spiritual communication technique was only at the tip of the iceberg. So the book ended up in the hands of Lin Muyu and Qianxia. By nightfall, they had traveled far into the dragon-seeking forest. A few spirit beasts had appeared along the way, but they were only wild beasts with a lifespan of over 10 years and did not possess true spirituality. At this moment, Lin Muyu had already cultivated the power of beast taming. She was just waiting to find a spirit beast to test it out. Just then, there was a sudden fluctuation in the spiritual pulse technique. Lin Muyu quickly looked to the right and said, "Xiaoyin, there seems to be something following us over there." Qianxia smiled. "What is it?" "You'll know when you see it." Lin Muyu suddenly raised her arm. Immediately, green vines swept across the ground with a schwa 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 sound, followed by a howl. It was a snow leopard. There was a golden pattern and 2 silver patterns on its forehead. It was a 1,200-year-old spirit beast. At this moment, its limbs were tightly bound by the gourd vines. Lin Muyu's strength far surpassed this 1,200-year-old spirit beast. Her martial soul was exceptionally powerful. Naturally, the snow leopard could not break free from the gourd vines. Qianxia urged her horse forward and said with a smile, "You wants to tame this snow leopard?" I want to try." "Xiaoyin, protect me." "Yes." Lin Muyu stood still. He could understand the snow leopard's roar, which was filled with anger. But after a few minutes, the roar became more drawn out and became a cry for mercy. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh out loud. He activated the spiritual pulse technique and sent his spirit sense into the snow leopard's mind. Lin Muyu's body trembled, as if he had entered a different dimension. From within the chaos, the snow leopard's beast spirit pounced forward, its claws extended. "Impudent!" Lin Muyu shouted and punched out, sending the snow leopard's beast spirit flying. Lin Muyu chased after it and stepped on its body, letting it howl in pain. Lin Muyu's spirit sense increased and the power of beast taming transformed into a white ripple that washed over the snow leopard's beast spirit. Not long after, the snow leopard's beast spirit trembled uncontrollably, begging for mercy. "Spare me, I am willing to submit." Suddenly, a voice rang out in Lin Muyu's mind. He opened his eyes and saw the snow leopard crawling before him, like a little puppy begging for mercy. It really submitted. Withdrawing his spirit sense, Lin Muyu placed his palm on the snow leopard's head and a milky white stream of warmth flowed into him. The spirit assimilation of the Conqueror Manual, allowing one's own soul to completely dominate the spirit beast's mind. That was the true conqueror, a conqueror that the spirit beast would never be able to resist. The snow leopard howled and crawled obediently at its master's feet, even wagging its tail. Qin Yin laughed lightly as she dismounted and stroked the snow leopard's head. She said with a smile, "Big brother you, it's suddenly become so cute." "That is." Lin Muyu smiled proudly. But at this time, the snow leopard suddenly howled violently. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, revealing its ferocious appearance. Traces of blood seeped out of its eyes and mouth, and it fell to the ground, struggling and crawling. It looked as if it was about to die. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu turned pale with fright. Qin Yin hurriedly flipped through the Conqueror Manual. She raised her head and said, "Big brother you, quickly stop using your spirit sense to invade its mind. This snow leopard soul is not strong enough to withstand your soul, it's about to die." Lin Muyu did not want to let the snow leopard die in vain, so she quickly withdrew all of her spirit sense. Immediately, the snow leopard's pain disappeared. It ran into the forest with its tail between its legs, not daring to attack Lin Muyu and Qin Yin anymore. She could not help but feel a little disappointed. Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said, "Damn, the cooked duck flew away." Qin Yin smiled lightly and comforted her, "Don't be sad. Just find another spirit beast with a stronger soul and tame it." That you're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.